Lucas Taylor is coming back. In the living room, Ethan Young, who was mopping the floor, visibly froze. Serena Sinclair leaned against the sofa, dressed in a blue nightgown. Her skin was like snow, her face beautiful, but her gaze towards Ethan was cold and distant. Seeing Ethan's silence, Serena assumed he didn't want to leave. I've given you more than enough these past 5 years. Don't be greedy. A stand-in should know his place. There's $200,000 on this card. Keep your mouth shut, and I want you out within a week. I don't need a week. I'll leave tonight. Ethan put down the mop and pointed to the bank card on the coffee table. Could you just transfer the money directly? And please add a note saying it's a voluntary gift. Now, it was Serena's turn to be stunned. She hadn't expected Ethan to agree so readily. With a cold expression, Serena took out her phone and made the transfer. In less than 2 minutes, Ethan received a notification on his phone. $200,000 received. The day had finally come. Ethan knew from the very beginning he was just a substitute. His goal was clear. Dignity was optional, but the money was essential. Ethan paid no attention to Serena's expression. After getting the money, he tossed the mop aside. I'm going to pack my things. Although he had lived here for nearly 5 years, very few things actually belonged to him. Serena had bought almost everything. Materially, Serena hadn't mistreated him. She'd let him live in this spacious apartment, and besides the initial $2 million payment for keeping him, she'd given him allowances and had custom clothes and accessories made for him. Even a simple cufflink or tie cost at least 5 figures. In the living room, Serena listened to the sounds of packing coming from the room. A fire ignited within her, and she felt inexplicably irritated. She had expected Ethan to beg her to stay, not to be dismissed so easily with a mere $200,000. In her mind, Ethan should have been desperately in love with her, unwilling to leave. Why'd he seem so eager to go? Had he even considered who would give him resources once he left her? She was the one paying the hefty monthly bills for his sister's stay at Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center. Could he possibly afford that on his current salary? Serena lowered her legs, stood up, and spat out harshly. You're not taking any of those custom clothes I bought for you over the years. I'd rather throw them away than let you have them. Ethan, who had been planning to pack them up and sell them, had to retract his eager hands. In the end, besides the few clothes he'd bought himself, there seemed to be nothing else. Pathetically little to take away after 5 years. It was already 11 p.m. when he finished packing. Serena was still sitting on the sofa. Seeing Ethan emerge with his suitcase, she narrowed her eyes slightly, but didn't move. Finished packing already? Ethan put down the suitcase. Miss Sinclair, would you like to inspect it? Her gaze fell on the suitcase. It was so small, it couldn't hold much anyway. She was the one kicking him out, so why did she feel so stifled? Serena had wanted Ethan to realize the difficulty of his situation and back down. If he hadn't wanted to leave, if he had begged her, she might have arranged another place for him. She could afford to keep him, like keeping a dog. Serena stared intently at his face, searching for any sign of reluctance. Ethan Young, is there nothing else you want to say to me? Ethan immediately made his position clear. Don't worry, Miss Sinclair. I'll act as if these 5 years never happened. We'll be strangers. I won't approach you, and I certainly won't get in your way or Mr. Taylor's. Serena snorted coldly. You certainly know your place. Ethan chuckled inwardly. Asterisk, if I didn't know my place, I would have been dead years ago. Asterisk. Seeing his meek, submissive posture, a hint of mockery crept into Serena's eyes. She lowered her gaze again, dismissively. Ethan, once you walk out that door, don't regret it. It won't be easy to come back. She was the one telling him to leave, and now she was the one telling him not to regret it. Ethan just said, okay. Then, dragging his suitcase with one hand, he closed the door with the other and left without looking back. The moment the door clicked shut, the gaze that had been fixed on him finally disappeared. He couldn't help but smile, relieved and light. Spotting the trash can by the door, he touched the studs in his ear. He'd almost forgotten about them. He took off the studs and tossed them straight into the trash. They weren't valuable. Serena had made them by hand and given them to him 4 years ago. He didn't even have pierced ears back then, but Serena had personally pierced them with a needle so he could wear these 5 studs. A few days after the piercing, his ears got infected. They were red, swollen, and festering for days. Every time he had to take the studs out to apply antiseptic, the pain made him wince. Serena never allowed him to take these 5 studs out. To him, they were shackles, a dog leash, a constant reminder that he was just a substitute. Now, finally, he didn't have to wear these ugly things anymore. Tossing the studs away felt like breaking free from years of bondage. In that moment, he realized he was free. Ethan dragged his suitcase downstairs and requested an Uber. It wasn't peak time, so a driver arrived quickly. The security guard at the entrance recognized Ethan and asked curiously, "Mr. Young, where are you going so late at night?" Ethan put his suitcase in the trunk, then smiled and waved at the guard. "I'm moving out. I won't be living here anymore. Goodbye." He got in the car, gave the last 4 digits of his phone number to confirm the ride, and the car slowly pulled away. The GPS navigation voice chimed inappropriately. "Please make a U-turn at a suitable intersection. Your route has been successfully planned." It was October, just after the Harvest Festival, and the air had turned cool. It reminded him of 7 years ago, this same season, when he'd lost everything. Back then, he had just turned 18. Right before the college entrance exams, both his parents died, and his younger sister's heart condition relapsed. His sister, Emily Young, had a congenital heart defect. With proper care, she could have lived a long, normal life, but their parents' death dealt her a devastating blow. Her condition worsened rapidly, requiring urgent surgery. Ethan scraped together every penny he could find for the operation. But even after the surgery, she wasn't healthy. Besides all the medications, there were exorbitant recovery costs. There was never enough money. To pay for his sister's treatment, Ethan not only used up all their parents' savings, but also fell deep into debt. He had to drop out of school, giving up the college entrance exams to work. During the hardest times, he worked 5 or 6 jobs a day, sleeping only 4 hours. One day, while delivering food, he ran into a director. Ethan didn't have much, but he had striking good looks, sharp features, handsome without being greasy, just clean-cut. The director took one look at him and recommended him for a supporting role in a short web series. Ethan decided to give it a shot, figuring he had nothing to lose. Even the pay for a supporting role, calculated per day, was better than what he earned delivering food all day. Thanks to his looks, he actually started trending online after the series aired, becoming more popular than the main actors. Soon after, Starlight Talent Agency signed him as an actor. He was desperate for money back then, focused only on getting funds quickly for his sister's treatment. Signing the contract allowed him to pay off his debts, but it also trapped him in an exploitative agreement. As a newcomer with no connections, soon after getting a little recognition, the agency started trying to pimp him out, threatening to shelve his career if he refused. Just when he felt cornered with nowhere to turn, Serena Sinclair showed up with $2 million. She said she could not only solve his problems with the agency, but also get his sister into the best facility, Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center, and find her a suitable heart transplant. The condition? He had to stay by her side for 5 years and obediently play the role of a stand-in. Serena had a first love, a childhood sweetheart named Lucas Taylor. Ethan bore a resemblance to Lucas, about 50 or 60% initially. Over the years, under Serena's constant training, the resemblance had increased to about 70%. Lucas was frail and pale, so Serena would make Ethan give blood, take ice-cold baths, and even stand outside shirtless in the snow as punishment. Lucas had 5 ear piercings, so Serena pierced Ethan's ears herself with a needle. Whatever color Lucas dyed his hair, she immediately made Ethan dye his the same way, replicating him perfectly. Ethan never resisted, only praying silently that Lucas, living abroad, wouldn't do anything too crazy. Dyeing hair and getting piercings were things he could copy. But what if Lucas got a tattoo, broke a leg, went blind, or deaf? Wasn't a stand-in's life still a life? As he grew to resemble Lucas more, Serena's control over him intensified. She forbade him from taking roles with romantic storylines, wouldn't let him take his shirt off on screen, and prohibited him from getting too close to women. These restrictions kept him from ever landing a leading role. So, despite being an actor for so long, he remained an obscure, C-list celebrity. Serena did finance some low-budget films for him, but they were always lukewarm indie dramas. Serena couldn't stand seeing him gain popularity. If Ethan received positive comments online, attracted attention, or was praised by directors or colleagues, Serena would order him home and make him kneel as punishment. She demanded Ethan be at her beck and call, available for her amusement, his entire focus consumed by her. In her eyes, Ethan was her pet dog, and a dog's defining trait is loyalty, its inability to leave its master. Ethan was clear about his own position. He was just an employee, albeit one with a very broad job description. He performed his duties diligently, taking meticulous care of Serena. They didn't have a housekeeper. He did all the cooking and cleaning himself. If his cooking wasn't good enough, he had to take classes. If the cleaning wasn't spotless, he had to do it over and over until Serena was satisfied. It wasn't that Serena couldn't afford a housekeeper. She just felt that since she was paying for Ethan, she should get her money's worth. She projected Lucas onto Ethan. Whatever Lucas could do, Ethan had to do. Whatever Lucas couldn't do, Ethan still had to do. This greatly satisfied her desire for control. Ethan gazed at the night scenery outside. The dark road winding through ginkgo trees, streetlights scattered like stars. Ethan had been preparing for this day for a long time, so when Serena told him to move out, he wasn't particularly surprised. He had been hoping this day would come sooner. Even if Serena hadn't kicked him out, he would have brought it up when the time came. Now, leaving a week earlier than expected, their separation was clean and decisive, calm and uneventful. There couldn't have been a better outcome. Ethan let out a long breath, a smile spreading across his face, his eyes clear and bright. He took out his phone and blocked and deleted Serena and everyone associated with her. Seeing his contacts list finally clean, he felt a profound sense of relief, like escaping a sea of suffering. People have feelings and desires. It would be impossible to say he hadn't harbored any resentment over the years. Even though he was paid for his services, emotional dissatisfaction was inevitable. As he deleted all the alarms from his phone, cleared his memos, and watched the name Serena Sinclair disappear from his view, it felt like his soul was being purified. Ethan wasn't worried about housing. He owned an apartment, 4 bedrooms, 2 living areas, plenty of space for him and his sister. He had cleaners come every month, so it was spotless and odor-free. He could move his luggage in and settle right down. After an hour's drive, Ethan reached his apartment in the early morning hours. He showered, made his bed, and collapsed into sleep. Starting tonight, he no longer had to worry about being woken up in the middle of the night to cook snacks, startled awake by sudden phone calls, or forced to get up early every day to prepare breakfast. Meanwhile, after Ethan left, Serena went into his bedroom. She opened the closet. All his clothes were still there, neatly organized. Nothing was missing except for him. Serena felt an inexplicable emptiness in the room that made her uneasy. The floor was half-mopped, the mop left standing in the living room. The kitchen light was still on. Inside the refrigerator were leftovers from dinner and a bowl of proofing dough, all because she had casually mentioned wanting a lobster roll at lunch. She drifted off, lost in thought, when her phone rang. It was a call from a friend. "Hey, come out and play. We're waiting at the usual spot. It's so late, I just want to sleep." "Sleep? You don't have work tomorrow. Just have Ethan drive you over. When you're done, he can pick you up. So convenient, right?" The mention of Ethan irritated Serena. She was the one who had initiated the separation. Logically, she should have felt relieved and satisfied that Ethan had left so readily. Yet, watching him drag his suitcase away without a word had left a tight knot in her chest. Even now, she spoke through gritted teeth. "Ethan's not here. Not there? Where'd he go this late at night? Out getting you a midnight snack?" Serena didn't want to talk about Ethan. "I'll drive myself. Be there in 30 minutes. Get the drinks ordered. It's my treat tonight." Very few people knew about Ethan. Only Sophia and Fiona knew the whole situation. When Serena arrived at the private booth, drinks had already been ordered, along with 6 male models, each standing 5 foot 11 inch. Serena wasn't interested in the male models. She found an armchair, sat down, and asked the bartender to mix her a strong drink. "Bad mood?" Sophia asked. "No," Serena replied. Sophia and Fiona exchanged a glance. They had been curious about what happened when they called Serena earlier. "Vivi," Sophia started. "You didn't really explain on the phone. What's going on with you and Ethan?" "Lucas is back, so I told him to move out." Sophia pressed. "And Ethan was willing to leave? What does it matter if he wasn't? It's my house. But you were together for 5 years. Don't you have any feelings for him at all?" Serena wasn't in a good mood and used her drinking to hide it. Lowering her eyes, she said, "The original is back. Why would I need a stand-in? I was only with him because he looked like Lucas. If it weren't for Lucas, I wouldn't have given him a second glance." "So, did Ethan say anything when he left?" Serena closed her eyes, and the image of Ethan leaving immediately surfaced in her mind, without a trace of reluctance or hesitation. "No, he was very obedient. I gave him $200,000 when he left." "Only $200,000? Sophia exclaimed, surprised. Fiona remained silent. The reason for their reaction was clear. The drinks on the table tonight alone cost more than $200,000. Serena had been incredibly stingy with Ethan, especially considering he'd been with her for 5 years. 5 years. Ethan had gone from 20 to 25, and during that time, he had taken care of Serena meticulously, showing incredible thoughtfulness and consideration. Ethan wasn't just handsome. He had a great personality, could do anything, and crucially, he could endlessly compromise when faced with Serena's bad temper. No matter how badly Serena treated him, he never got angry. Family background aside, Ethan was practically the perfect boyfriend. Even the perpetually picky Fiona couldn't find fault with him. Initially, Serena had only approached Ethan out of curiosity, thinking it would just be a fling. People around them had bet she'd get bored within a month, but 5 years passed, and they were still together. Serena scoffed. $200,000 isn't much? She'd only given Ethan $200,000 because, ultimately, she didn't think he was worth more. Sophia muttered, for a normal person, $200,000 is more than a year's salary, but for you, it's not even one night's expenses. Honestly, after you two being together so long, I really thought some feelings had developed. Given how devoted Ethan always was to you, I expected him to cling desperately, not just leave when told. Fiona interjected. Ethan must be pretending, acting indifferent on the outside, but hurting inside. I bet he won't be able to stop himself from contacting Vivi tomorrow. Why wait until tomorrow? Sophia teased. Call him right now and tell him to pick Vivi up. Bet you he'll grab a cab immediately. It's always like that, comes whenever she calls. Where else is he going to find such a generous sugar mama after leaving Vivi? They started joking around again. Because Serena didn't treat Ethan with respect, they didn't take him seriously either. Serena never hid things from Sophia and Fiona. She often brought Ethan to their get-togethers and would train him like a dog right in front of them. And Ethan only had eyes for Serena. As long as she was nearby, his gaze would be fixed on her. Even they, who had grown up with Serena, probably didn't understand her as deeply as Ethan did. Ethan knew what Serena wanted with just a look, often handing her things before she even lifted her hand. Ethan had also done well for himself, growing more handsome over the years, perfectly fitting Serena's preferences. Looking at recent photos of Lucas, Ethan had clearly surpassed him, especially in physique, lean in clothes, muscular without. The life Serena had lived with Ethan these past few years had been undeniably good, so much so that even rich girls like them were envious. Listening to Sophia and Fiona talk, Serena's mood instantly improved. She swirled the drink in her glass, downed it in one go, leaving a red stain on her lips. Let's not talk about him anymore. Okay. No more Ethan, Sophia conceded. Let's talk about Lucas then. What do you think he'd say if he found out you kept a look-alike substitute for him these past 5 years while he was gone? Not many people know about Ethan, but you know how small this circle is. Secrets always get out. Serena shrugged dismissively. I hope he finds out. I can use Ethan to test him. She and Lucas had grown up together. Their parents had even arranged their engagement when they were kids. The plan was to get married during college, but then Lucas suddenly decided to go abroad, completely disrupting both families' plans. He hadn't even discussed such a huge decision with her, just sorted out the paperwork on his own. By the time Serena found out, he had already booked his flight, completely blindsiding her. Serena had argued, thrown tantrums, screamed herself hoarse, even threatened him. But Lucas remained unmoved, insistent on leaving. She couldn't understand why Lucas was so set on going to Y Country. Who exactly was waiting for him there? When Lucas left, Serena was filled with resentment and even fell into a period of self-doubt. In that state of mind, seeing Ethan, who bore some resemblance to Lucas, was like finding a punching bag for her frustrations. She directed all her malice towards Ethan, inflicting on him everything she couldn't do to Lucas. Ethan could soothe her wounded pride, but he was also a tool to get back at Lucas. After all, misfortune is relative. The better her life seemed, the more Lucas might regret leaving. Recently, Lucas had been preparing to return and had started actively contacting her, bringing up things from their past. She sensed he was starting to care again, but she wasn't as thrilled as she thought she'd be. As more wine was drunk, the 6 male models gathered around Sophia and Fiona. Serena was getting a bit drunk too. She hated sleeping out and never stayed away overnight. She wanted to go home. She wanted the comforting rice porridge Ethan always made for her. Serena put down her glass, propping her head up with her hand. It's getting late, I want to go home. Sophia squinted. What time is it? One of the models beside her immediately answered, 3 a.m. That late already? The model asked. Miss Sullivan, shall I arrange 3 rooms for you? 2 will be fine, Sophia replied. Sophia knew Serena hated staying in hotels. Even the best ones weren't as comfortable as her home, where she'd have hangover soup, comforting porridge, and someone to help her freshen up. She looked at Serena. So, want me to call Ethan to come get you? Serena just grunted, holding her stomach with one hand while dialing with the other. The call connected quickly. After 2 rings, an automated voice came on. We're sorry, the number you have dialed is currently busy. Please try again later. Serena Sinclair rarely drank hard liquor. If Ethan were around, he'd definitely watch her and stop her. Plus, she was on her period, and drinking too much upset her stomach. Right now, she just wanted to go home and lie down, wishing Ethan would hurry up and pick her up, but her calls wouldn't go through. This hadn't happened in years. Serena was about to call out for Ethan when she realized the sound from her phone was an automated message. Sophia, closest to her, noticed Serena's expression change and leaned in. "When's Ethan coming to get you?" It didn't even cross Sophia's mind that Ethan might have blocked Serena. Serena tried calling again, same message. She was dizzy from the alcohol, but not stupid. 2 calls getting the same result could only mean one thing. Ethan had blocked her. Sophia, still clueless, asked, "What's wrong? Is he not picking up?" A wave of irritation surged through her, intensifying the pain in her stomach. Serena's eyes started to redden. She kicked the table hard, sending the stacked glasses tumbling and shattering across the floor with a loud crash. The sudden noise startled everyone in the private room into silence. Sophia was sobered up by the shock. Before she could react, Serena suddenly held out her hand. "Give me your phone." Sophia handed it over without a word, watching Serena find Ethan's number in her contacts and dial. Same result, the call wouldn't connect. She looked at Fiona. Before Serena could ask, Fiona dialed him too. Hearing the automated message, she shook her head at Serena, her expression grim. "Ethan blocked all of us?" Serena pressed her lips together tightly. The hand that had been clutching her stomach clenched into a fist, nails digging into her palm without her noticing. "Where does he get the nerve?" Fiona exclaimed. "Blocking Serena? Has he forgotten about his sister in the hospital? Forgotten about his company?" They'd rather believe it was a network problem than accept that Ethan would block Serena. They had all seen how Ethan had acted over the past 5 years. Calling him gentle was less accurate than calling him weak and spineless. Ethan had seen every side of Serena, the good and bad in human nature, the positive and negative, the mature and childish. Serena never bothered to pretend around Ethan because he tolerated everything about her. Getting to this point involved more than just affection. Future prospects and benefits were also factors. Although Serena had only given Ethan $200,000 when she kicked him out, she had spent plenty on him during their 5 years together. Just his sister Emily Young's annual hospital bills started in the 6 figures. And the TV shows and movies he starred in, Serena had paid to get him those roles. If it weren't for Serena, Ethan would have been chewed up and spit out by the cutthroat entertainment industry long ago. He should know perfectly well that his only future lay in staying with Serena. Besides anger, Serena felt a wave of confusion. How could this happen? Even though she had told him to leave, he was supposed to come running the moment she needed him. If Ethan left her, where would he live? How would his sister get treatment? And what about his Starlight talent agency? Weren't they afraid someone would try to exploit him now? Most importantly, Ethan loved her. He was willing to do anything for her, give up everything. Of course, this was only Serena's perception. Suddenly, her stomach cramped violently. Serena let out an involuntary groan, doubling over and clutching her stomach. Cold sweat broke out on her skin within seconds. Seeing she wasn't okay, Sophia quickly pushed aside the male model beside her and rushed over to support her. "Serena, what's wrong? Where does it hurt?" "My stomach hurts." "Quick, get her some warm water." In a flurry, Sophia took the warm water and handed it to Serena. "Maybe we should take you to General Hospital?" "I'm fine." She'd always had stomach issues, though they hadn't flared up under Ethan's care. He always carried her medicine, gave it to her when she felt unwell, and strictly managed her diet. Serena hated bland food, so Ethan found ways to make things tasty. The man who once couldn't even chop potatoes properly had now mastered Southern cuisine. Sophia and Fiona didn't know what else to do but sit quietly with her. Thankfully, Serena's color improved after drinking the warm water. Fiona muttered, "Maybe something's wrong with his phone? Why would Ethan suddenly block you?" Sophia shot her a glare, warning her to drop it. Serena said, "He's the one who can't live without me, not the other way around. If he wants to block me, fine. Let's see if he can resist coming back to me for the rest of his life. It's not like he's irreplaceable. A substitute, no matter how perfect, is still just a substitute. Never as good as the real thing." Sophia agreed. "He's probably just throwing a tantrum. Give him a couple of days. He'll realize he was wrong and come crawling back. Guys can play games too, you know? Playing hard to get. If he takes it too far, he'll be the one crying." Serena closed her eyes, her mind uncontrollably replaying the moment Ethan left. She had been drunk. Calling him to pick her up right after kicking him out made it seem like she was the one who couldn't live without him. Since she'd already told him to get lost, she should make a clean break. Some ties needed to be cut completely, or they'd only cause more trouble. With that thought, Serena texted Starlight Talent Agency. She told them she and Ethan were done. They didn't need to report his affairs to her anymore, and They could handle him however they wanted. As for Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center, the VIP rooms were expensive and limited. Getting one required not just appointments and waiting lists, but also connections. Ethan's sister, Emily Young, had been staying there for 4 years, receiving the best treatment. Now, she was taking it all back. Serena pushed herself up using the sofa armrest. "I'm heading back," Sophia asked with concern. "Are you feeling better?" "Much better. I just need to go home and sleep it off." "Did you drive yourself?" Serena nodded. "Okay, I'll get a driver for you. Text me when you get home." Sophia and Fiona supported her on either side. Among the three, Serena came from the wealthiest family. If anything happened to her, they couldn't bear the responsibility. Serena got into the car. There was a sharp temperature drop between day and night. At 4 in the morning, it was only 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The car smelled of gasoline and leather. Maybe it was the alcohol, but she felt carsick now. Thankfully, home wasn't far, only about half an hour away. Serena took the elevator up, stumbling along the way. The alcohol hitting her hard almost made her trip, something that definitely wouldn't have happened if Ethan had been there. Finally, at her door, Serena leaned against the wall to use the fingerprint scanner. Her gaze drifted downwards. Suddenly, her expression froze as if struck by lightning. All thought stopped. Her eyes fixed on the dirty trash can and, just visible inside, an earring. Maybe the alcohol had short-circuited her brain, robbing her of the ability to think straight. Without hesitation, ignoring the filth and stench of the trash can, Serena Sinclair reached in and picked up the stud earrings lying on top. She'd made them herself. The craftsmanship was a bit rough. The letters LT were etched onto them, barely visible unless you looked closely. A wave of complicated emotions washed over her. She'd only found 3 of the 5 studs. She had originally intended to give them to Lucas Taylor, but he went abroad before she got the chance. Then she met Ethan Young and forced all 5 onto his ears. Ethan had worn them for 4 years, never taking them off once in all that time. Now, those same studs were here in this disgusting trash can. She didn't dare dwell on what that meant. Clutching the 3 studs tightly, she thought, asterisk, they're just a few worthless earrings. If Ethan threw them away, why am I picking them up? Trash belongs in the trash. Am I really thinking of giving these to Lucas now? Asterisk. Serena didn't know what she was thinking. She just tossed the 3 studs into the junk drawer by the entrance. After quickly washing up, Serena got into bed. It took her a long time to finally fall asleep. That night, she had a chaotic dream, drifting between Lucas and Ethan. When the dream faded, she woke up. The price of her hangover was a splitting headache. It had been a long time since she'd felt this awful. Serena drank often, but usually when she got drunk, Ethan was there running around after her. He'd make hangover soup, cook porridge, apply cold towels to her forehead, and even put on a mask for her to prevent redness and puffiness the next day. Just awake, Serena hadn't yet registered that Ethan was gone. Clutching her head, she walked out. Seeing the quiet living room and kitchen, she instinctively went to Ethan's bedroom, turned the knob, and pushed the door open. "I want fried." Before she could finish, she saw the empty bedroom and suddenly remembered. Ethan had left yesterday. He had such a low presence. With him gone, it almost felt like nothing was missing from the apartment, making it easy to forget he wasn't there anymore. Serena's irritation peaked. She stormed into the kitchen and yanked open the fridge. There were still dumplings Ethan had made in the freezer. Even without Ethan, I can still have fried dumplings, she thought. Serena heated oil in a pan and dumped the dumplings in. The steps were the same, but in her hands, the dumplings practically exploded. If she hadn't shielded her face just in time, the hot oil would have splattered onto her skin. Serena ran her hand under cold water, looking at the completely burnt dumplings in the pan. Frustration surged through her, her chest heaving. Serena's head throbbed with anger. She grabbed the frying pan and slammed it into the sink. She vented her fury, achieving nothing but making a mess of the kitchen. Just then, her phone rang. Serena picked it up. It was the head of Starlight Talent Agency. As soon as she answered, the person on the other end cautiously asked, "Miss Sinclair, about the text you sent last night." "What did you mean? You and Ethan?" Serena's voice was low. "I'm tired of him. I won't be involved in his affairs anymore. Do whatever you want with him. Don't give him any special treatment." "Okay, I understand." The caller clearly understood Serena's underlying message. She wanted them to make things difficult for Ethan. They had no idea how Ethan had managed to displease the young heiress. Serena called a cleaning service to come tidy up. Meanwhile, she went into the storage room. Though punishment room might be more accurate, it was spacious, filled with various art supplies. She picked up a paintbrush and stared at a black collar lying on the desk. If Ethan saw this, he would immediately understand. Serena was angry. Simply kneeling wouldn't appease her. Only enduring beatings and fulfilling her nonsensical demands would work. Serena had countless ways to torment people. Artistically, her forte was painting, and Ethan was her model. Her studio was filled with paintings, all portraits of the same man, bare-chested, holding a bouquet of roses, covered in blood, lying with eyes closed in a cold bathtub. Serena's favorite was one of him lying wounded in a pool of blood, radiating a sense of brokenness. Back then, battle damage transformations were popular online, but those videos used makeup. Ethan's injuries were real. Ethan rarely angered her, but she was a woman. And some days of the month, when she was in a bad mood, Ethan suffered. Now that Ethan was gone, she'd lost her outlet. She certainly couldn't do things like this to Lucas. She would hide that cruel side of herself from him. Serena touched a lingering bloodstain on an artificial flower, suddenly regretting letting Ethan leave so easily yesterday. Looking inward, she truly was reluctant to let Ethan go. After all, his departure meant she'd lose a lot of her. Fun. If only I could openly have both of them, she mused. Asterisk, why do people have to choose? Why can't I have everything? Asterisk. At 10 in the morning, Ethan slowly woke up. He hadn't slept this well in a long time, sleeping soundly until morning. He felt relaxed and full of energy. No need to be on edge waiting for Serena's sudden calls. No need to rack his brain trying to figure out how to please her. Ethan ordered takeout and tidied up a bit while waiting for it. After breakfast, Ethan went out to buy groceries, planning to make a pot of chicken soup to take to his sister. Ethan was a good cook. The aroma of the simmering chicken soup filled the apartment. Besides the soup, he also stir-fried a couple of side dishes and steamed some rice. When he arrived at Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center, Emily Young was drawing. Unlike Serena's fine art, Emily drew manga. She had a real talent for it, and their parents had always supported her hobby when they were still alive. If Emily's condition hadn't worsened, she likely would have become a manga artist by now. Ethan pushed these thoughts aside, put on a smile, and walked into the room. Emily didn't notice him until he was close. Brother. Emily looked up, her eyes brightening when she saw Ethan. What are you drawing so intently? I came all the way in, and you didn't even notice. I'm drawing a 4-panel comic strip. The main character is based on you, Emily said, handing her sketchbook to Ethan. Look, does this look like you? Ethan looked. It was a chibi-style character that actually captured some of his essence. He chuckled. You made me look so small. But you are young, brother. Young, handsome, bright, and gentle. It's just a shame my drawing skills aren't good enough to capture even a tenth of how wonderful you are, Emily said earnestly. Ethan ruffled Emily's hair, amused. All right, enough with the flattery. Go wash your hands. It's time for chicken soup. Emily Young had just turned 18. There was a 7-year age gap between her and her brother, Ethan, and they didn't look much alike. Emily was still in high school, but frequently missed classes due to her health. It was uncertain if she'd be able to take the college entrance exams this year. Fortunately, her condition was improving, so even if things didn't work out this year, she could always try again next year. A good education was important for most people, and Ethan hoped his sister could have a complete college experience, unlike him. Ethan took the containers out of the thermal lunchbox. He first ladled a bowl of the yellowish chicken soup for Emily, having carefully skimmed all the fat off the top. Emily came out after washing her hands, picked up the bowl, and carefully took a sip. Perfectly seasoned. She took a bite of a chicken wing, the rich aroma making her sigh contentedly. Big brother, your soup is amazing. Slow down, it's hot, Ethan said, handing her a napkin. I also brought some pastries you can have later, like an afternoon snack. Emily's face lit up. You made them yourself? Yeah, Ethan confirmed. Some cake and cookies. Many store-bought sweets were loaded with oil, sugar, and additives, making them unsuitable for someone recovering. Homemade treats were healthier and a much better option. Hearing this, Emily immediately put down her bowl and started rummaging through the box of treats. Just as she reached for one, Ethan gently tapped the back of her hand. Finish your meal first. No snacks right now. I was just looking, Emily muttered, rubbing the back of her hand. Ethan always spoiled her. His taps felt more like a tickle than a hit. She pulled her hand back and reached for her tablet instead. Hang on, let me find a show to watch while I eat. Emily's preferred viewing material, while eating, usually consisted of Ethan's TV shows and movies. Though he'd been acting for 5 years, he hadn't been in many productions. Recently, he'd taken a supporting role in a short web series. Its niche subject matter meant it didn't attract a large audience, but Emily found it and began watching eagerly. Ethan didn't interfere, only reminding her, focus on your food. With Ethan keeping her company, Emily ate half a bowl more than usual. Between bites, she asked, "So, how are things going with your girlfriend?" Ethan didn't hide it. "We've separated," he said. He used the word separated rather than broken up because they had never truly been dating. But he couldn't possibly tell Emily about the arrangement he had with Serena. He had to maintain the pretense that they had been a real couple. Emily didn't show much reaction. After a moment's silence, she said, "Maybe it's for the best. You never seemed happy when you were with her." She added, "You're a great guy, brother. You deserve someone wonderful." As an onlooker, she had clearly sensed Serena's condescension toward her brother. That's why, for the past few years, Emily had been gently encouraging him to end it. Hearing they had actually separated now, Emily felt like running victory laps around the hospital, if only her health permitted. "So, who broke up with whom? Do you still love Serena?" "No," Ethan replied. Seeing how decisively Ethan answered, Emily broke into a wide grin. "You've finally seen the light. It's never too late to cut your losses." "All right, that's enough worrying about my affairs," Ethan chuckled. "It's just, we probably can't afford this private room anymore." "A regular room will be perfectly fine," Emily said quickly. "And don't worry about my health, brother. The doctors say I'm recovering really well. Maybe next year, I'll even be able to go back to school like normal." Ethan replied, "I'll take care of the arrangements then." Ethan had never explicitly explained the details of his relationship with Serena, but Emily wasn't naive. She could infer a lot without needing to ask. Perhaps because she had faced significant challenges at a young age, Emily was remarkably mature and considerate. She never burdened Ethan with any worries beyond her health. Ethan had recently been in a low-budget web series. While the viewership numbers weren't high, it had received many positive reviews. Throughout his 5 years as an actor, Ethan's career had remained lukewarm, with his follower count hovering just around the million mark. Emily was his #1 fan. Every time Ethan had a new project released, she promoted it more actively than he did, posting dozens of times a day on social media. Emily watched Ethan's profile as he took a sip of water. She wasn't just biased. Her brother was genuinely the most handsome man she knew. If only he put more effort into fan engagement, posted a few dashing photos every day, his follower count would have easily surpassed 2 million by now. "Seriously, bro, if you just engage with your fans more, you'd be huge by now." Emily pulled up Ethan's social media profile. His latest promotional post barely had over 1,000 likes. Her own post got better engagement than that. Even worse, some people had apparently unfollowed him after seeing the post, dropping his count from just over 1 million to 999K. It was enough to drive anyone with OCD nuts. Ethan didn't look good in the series. It wasn't that he wasn't photogenic. The director had intentionally made him look unattractive, sallow skin, and outdated hairstyle. Apart from his eyes, there was nothing appealing about his appearance in the role. She remembered how Ethan had once trended online just for a supporting role in a short series, solely based on his striking good looks. But now, watching his recent performances, that former appearance was gone. Some online commenters who had seen his shows even speculated he'd had botched plastic surgery. Ethan never bothered to refute these negative comments, simply letting people speculate. His agency did nothing. His agent didn't intervene. There was no public relations support, and he effectively had no management team. It was as if someone were intentionally trying to dim his shine. The projects Ethan had taken on in recent years were progressively less promising, slowly draining the enthusiasm of his remaining fans. Emily sighed. "What's with the sighing? You're too young for that," Ethan said. "Besides, I never really wanted to be an actor. Fame doesn't matter to me." He earned his money from acting fees, and he hadn't been idle these past 5 years. Through Serena, he'd made valuable connections. He had saved the money she provided and invested it wisely. While his net worth was nothing compared to Serena's, he had enough to support Emily comfortably and wasn't afraid of being threatened. He had it all figured out. If things didn't work out in Maplewood, he'd move to Seabreeze City. With savings, he could make a life for himself anywhere. He was a grown man. His life didn't depend on Serena. With that thought, Ethan reached out and ruffled Emily's hair again. "Don't worry," he reassured her. "We're going to be just fine." Emily tried to look reassured, but inwardly, she was still anxious. It wasn't that she didn't trust Ethan, but the reality was stark. After paying her hefty medical bills, how much could Ethan really save from his earnings? And would Starlight Talent Agency really let him leave without a fight? Just then, Ethan's phone rang. Ethan saw it was his agent, David Johnson. Not wanting to worry Emily, he stepped out into the hallway to answer it. His agent David's furious voice erupted from the phone. "Ethan Young, why the hell haven't you answered my texts? Do you have any respect for me as your agent? Or for the agency? What's this about?" Ethan asked calmly. "What the hell happened with Miss Sinclair? She told us she's cutting you off. Did you break up?" Serena had invested a significant amount of money in the agency over the years. Because of her backing, Ethan hadn't faced much trouble there, aside from being given poor scripts. Losing a patron like her wasn't just Ethan's loss. It was a huge blow to the agency. If Ethan and Serena were really finished, he'd be completely disposable to them. David sounded livid. You could almost hear him fuming through the phone. He ordered, "You get over there and smooth things over with Miss Sinclair right now. Don't you forget, she's the only reason you've stayed afloat all these years. Stop being difficult. Think about your career. Think about your sick sister. If the agency shelves you, you're finished. There'd be no you without Serena. You had the perfect sponsor right there, and instead of holding on for dear life, you let her go. How do you expect to make it in this business now? Are you listening to me? Figure out how to get back in her good graces fast, before it's too late. Have you forgotten how miserable things were for you before she came along?" Ethan glanced at his watch. The call had already gone on for 5 minutes. "Like you said," he replied evenly, "that was the past." David Johnson froze, then flew into a rage, his voice hitting a shrill, furious pitch. "Ethan Young, what is the meaning of this? Do you even want this job anymore? If you drive Miss Sinclair away, you won't find another patron like her. Don't forget you signed an 8-year contract with our agency, and this is only year 5. Ethan replied calmly, "Let's find some time to talk properly about the contract." David sneered over the phone, "Fine. Then come down to Starlight Talent Agency this afternoon, and we'll talk properly." With that, he hung up. Ethan opened his messages. David had sent him a flurry of DMs around 10 that morning, but Ethan hadn't seen them because his phone was on Do Not Disturb. The messages were all about Serena, saying pretty much the same things David had just yelled over the phone. No need to read them again. After checking his messages, Ethan opened his block list. He saw several missed calls logged there, the most prominent ones from Serena. The calls were very close together. Clearly, after finding his number blocked, Serena had tried calling him from someone else's phone. Asterisk, calling him at 3 in the morning? What for? Asterisk, she had just told him to leave yesterday. Not even a full day had passed, and now she was calling him, just looking for trouble. Ethan thought he knew Serena well enough, but he still found her behavior baffling. He knew perfectly well that developing real feelings was out of the question. There was no way she actually missed him. He figured she'd probably gone out drinking late, felt sick afterward, and wanted him to come pick her up and take care of her. When Serena drank too much, she loved to pick fights and make trouble. She became moody and volatile, incredibly difficult to please. Ethan felt a wave of relief. Thank God he had blocked her number yesterday. He put his phone down. Emily Young saw him reappear and asked, "Brother, are you leaving now?" "Yeah," Ethan said, giving her instructions patiently. "You get some rest. Call or text me if you need anything. And be good and listen to the doctor." "Okay." Ethan gathered the insulated container he'd brought, washed it out, and packed up the snacks. He had made 2 boxes of pastries, one for Emily and one for someone else. Emily had seen them both and assumed they were both for her, but Ethan simply put one box into a bag and left with it. He didn't leave Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center right away. Instead, he walked over to another building to visit an elderly woman. He and the old lady, Grandma Wood, were friends despite the age gap. She was 80 years old this year, but still quite spry. Her favorite pastimes were browsing the supermarket, doing her park dancing, watching short dramas, and listening to audiobooks. Coincidentally, her favorite short dramas were the very ones Ethan starred in. As she put it, they were corny but addictive. They had met once when Grandma Wood took a tumble while out shopping for groceries. None of the passers-by dared to help, afraid of being blamed or sued. Ethan happened to be walking by, helped her up, and took her to the hospital. That's how they became acquainted. Grandma Wood recognized him instantly as the handsome supporting actor from her dramas. As she was being wheeled into surgery, she kept clutching his hand, asking for his autograph. Ethan hadn't expected to rescue one of his own fans off the street. It felt like fate worked in mysterious ways. After they got to know each other, the old lady grew increasingly fond of Ethan. She watched every drama he'd ever been in, becoming his second diehard fan after Emily. Recently, Grandma would have been admitted to the hospital to manage high blood pressure. Since Ethan had made some whole wheat cookies, he decided to stop by and visit her. "Grandma Wood, I came to see you. I brought some whole wheat cookies I made. You should be able to eat these." "Ethan, you're finally here. I've been craving your cookies for ages," Grandma Wood exclaimed, overjoyed to see him. "Have you had lunch?" Ethan opened the bag and handed her the cookies. "I've already eaten." Grandma Wood immediately took one out and started munching. "Did you just come from your sister's room?" Ethan nodded with a quiet mm and sat down, only then noticing that one of his short dramas was playing on the room's television. Watching his own work always made Ethan more critical of his acting. The more he watched, the more awkward he felt. What kind of aesthetic does this director have? Making a handsome face like yours look like this? You barely look like yourself, Grandma would complain, a familiar critique Ethan had heard often. He was used to it, but still explained, it's to fit the character. Well, don't take such unflattering roles next time. That wasn't something he could decide. The truth was, while good scripts had come his way over the past 5 years, Serena had complete control over which projects he took on. Even though Ethan's character wasn't very likable, Grandma would watch with relish, her gaze flickering between the TV screen and Ethan's face. "Oh, right, Ethan," she said, her eyes twinkling as she gave him a knowing look. "What have you decided about that matter I mentioned on the phone the other day?" Ethan looked momentarily blank before it dawned on him. Grandma would have been trying to set him up with her granddaughter recently. According to Grandma Wood, her granddaughter, Zara Sinclair, was 28. She'd gone abroad 5 years ago to start her own business and was now planning to return home to take over Taylor Holdings. Grandma Wood beamed with pride whenever she talked about her granddaughter, her eyes sparkling. She said Zara had been exceptional since childhood, always top of her class, even the city's top science student back in the day. She was beautiful, had a great figure, and never gave her parents any trouble. The only issue was her love life. She didn't even have a boyfriend. At 28, she'd apparently never dated anyone. When asked about her standards for a partner, she'd claimed she wasn't interested in men. The old lady worried constantly about it, feeling the stress add wrinkles to her face. She was 80, living year by year, and her greatest wish was to see her granddaughter settle down and start a family, preferably having children, before she passed away. Grandma would held traditional views, believing that marriage and children were essential parts of life, necessary to carry on the family line and legacy. "You're 25 this year, and my granddaughter is 28. You know what they say, a woman 3 years older brings good fortune. The age gap is perfect," Grandma would coax patiently. "Zara, I watched her grow up. She's more beautiful than a movie star. Young people can just get to know each other first, just be friends. I'm not telling you to get married right away. If it doesn't work out, I won't force you." Grandma would acknowledge that modern women weren't necessarily dependent on men. Marriage wasn't a necessity for them, especially for someone as accomplished as Zara. Successful career, wealthy family, becoming a corporate chairwoman at such a young age. Marriage might genuinely hold little appeal for her. Ethan tried to politely decline with a joke. "Your granddaughter is too outstanding. I'm not good enough for her." Grandma would immediately countered. "Who says you're not good enough? I think you're exceptionally good, the best young man I know. It's because you're so wonderful that I want to introduce my best granddaughter to you. Her standards aren't that high. I raised her. I know her type." "What type is that?" "Just your type," Grandma would declared. "Handsome." "You'd better believe it," Grandma would said. "My granddaughter takes after me. She likes whatever I like." Eventually, after much persuasion from Grandma Wood, Ethan agreed to meet her. Ethan had speculated about Grandma Wood's background. Anyone staying in a VIP room and personally attended to by the hospital director had to come from a powerful and influential family. A girl from such a family would never lack suitors. There could be many reasons she wasn't interested in dating. Perhaps her standards were too high, or maybe she genuinely wasn't interested in men. In any case, meeting her wouldn't take much time, and given his own circumstances, she probably wouldn't be interested in him anyway. Grandma would arrange the time and place and notify him by phone once everything was set. By the time Ethan left Grandma Wood, it was already late. He saw a text from David. Out of 50 words, probably 40 were curses, and the remaining 10 asked when he would arrive. Ethan replied with 2 words, "Wait up." David seemed furious, bombarding him with texts and voice messages, even calling him. Ethan ignored them all and simply silenced his phone. It was about a half-hour taxi ride from Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center. When Ethan arrived, Starlight Talent Agency had already closed for the day, so the meeting place had been changed to a coffee shop near the company. David sat with his arms crossed and legs crossed, impatiently glancing at his watch. Unable to vent his frustration elsewhere, he snapped at the cafe's staff. Seeing Ethan arrive, David immediately adopted a sarcastic tone. Well, look who finally decided to show up. Mr. Busy. Ethan hadn't come empty-handed. He brought a document, a copy of the contract termination agreement he had printed earlier that morning. He placed it on the table and got straight to the point. "I want to terminate my contract." David was stunned by Ethan's move. The Ethan he knew was submissive and weak-willed, never challenging any company arrangements, incredibly easy to bully. David quickly scanned the contract, and realizing Ethan was serious, he glared at him menacingly. "Ethan Young, The company hasn't treated you poorly. When you were drowning in debt, the company advanced your salary to pay it off. If the company hadn't signed you as an artist, gotten you scripts, and paid you, your sister would have died long ago. Don't you understand gratitude? Initially, the company struggled and couldn't give you good resources, but now that you've latched onto Serena, things are looking up for you day by day. There's no need to terminate the contract now. You signed an 8-year contract. It's only the 5th year. Terminating early means paying a breach penalty. Do you have any idea how much that is? If Miss Sinclair were willing to pay it for you, I wouldn't say a word. But she's clearly tired of you now. How much are you even worth? Selling you piece by piece wouldn't even cover it. If I were you, I'd be diligently sucking up to Serena. You have a rich, beautiful sugar mama supporting you, and the company is investing in you. Don't be ungrateful for your good fortune. From the tone of Serena's call, David had gathered that she was done with Ethan. Someone like Ethan wouldn't dare leave voluntarily. Without Serena, he was nothing. Honestly, if Serena hadn't protected him back then, Ethan probably would have been drugged and sold off years ago. Ethan habitually ordered an Americano. It was Serena's favorite drink, very bitter. Even after years, he still hadn't gotten used to it and needed lots of sugar and milk. As he added them, Ethan slowly said, "This good fortune. You want it? You can have it." Seeing that neither threats nor persuasion worked on Ethan, David sneered. "Ethan Young, I tried to discuss this reasonably, but you insist on making things ugly, huh?" Bang! He slammed his hand on the contract, making the table tremble. "Fine. If you insist on terminating, we'll follow the legal contract. It's written in black and white with your signature and fingerprint. Don't think you can just get out of it." Ethan chuckled softly. "Naturally, we'll strictly follow legal procedures. But before that, there are a few things I need to make clear to you. Back then, I desperately needed money and wasn't thinking clearly. I was tricked by certain unscrupulous people into signing some unreasonable contracts. Do you really naive enough to believe that Hollywood agency contracts can just be filled out arbitrarily, signed by someone, and automatically be legally binding?" David wasn't just his manager. He was also a shareholder in the company. There weren't many good people at Starlight Talent Agency. Their initial capital came from exploiting legal loopholes. The company managed all sorts of artists, some, like Ethan, who started in short online dramas, others from idol groups, singers, and second- or third-tier actors. The company kept dirt on its artists, manufacturing it if necessary. If any artist showed the slightest resistance, they were threatened with being shelved or hit with astronomical penalties. Ethan himself had been tricked into joining the company initially, partly due to his ignorance of contracts, partly out of desperation. It was a case of clutching at straws. Only after signing did he realize the true nature of the exploitative contract from a ruthless company. Every clause was brutal. No escape clause was ever this harsh. Obligations and rights should be balanced, Ethan continued. Such a high penalty fee must be calculated based on my earnings, commercial value, endorsements, resource allocation, the company's investment in my image, promotion, publicity, and efforts in managing negative PR. All these factors must be included to determine the final penalty amount. Or did you think you could just pull a number out of thin air and make me pay an exorbitant fee? Over the years, I've been in 10 shows total and 1 low-budget film, for which Serena was the investor. I basically brought that in myself. My resources are the lowest in the entire company. As for the company's investment in me that you mentioned, I've compiled a list and sent it to your email. You want someone earning less than $100,000 a year to pay $100 million in damages? How do you think the public will react online? Will the Screen Actors Guild intervene? Will this contract even hold up legally? Ethan didn't earn much as an actor. Serena intentionally suppressed his potential, ensuring many scripts never reached him, which was why his resources dwindled year after year. Ironically, this now made it easier for him to leave. Ethan might have been naive at first, but he wasn't anymore. He hadn't remained foolishly stagnant. He had planned his exit long ago, anticipating a dispute with the agency and preparing for a tough fight. Over the past 5 years, leveraging Serena's fame and status, he had secretly gathered substantial incriminating evidence against the company. David's face turned ugly. He had drafted the contract. He knew better than anyone that its clauses wouldn't stand up to scrutiny. A chill ran down his spine, and he looked at Ethan with a newfound wariness, as if seeing him for the first time. Just as he was trying to figure out how to regain control, Ethan dropped an even bigger bombshell. "David Johnson, I'm not feeling very balanced right now, emotionally unstable. If you try to pressure me with this penalty fee, I'm afraid I might lose control and do something drastic. For example, concerning the company's tax issues, the scandals involving its artists, and numerous illegal activities I can't even count, like illegal fundraising, forcing minors into illicit activities, and so on. With every word Ethan spoke, David's face darkened another shade. His initial confidence evaporated, replaced by panic. Cold sweat broke out on his back. Was Ethan bluffing, trying to bait him into admitting something? The company had many skeletons in its closet, but they were buried deep. He couldn't believe someone like Ethan, with no background, could have uncovered anything significant. Trying to regain composure, David's lip twitched. Who do you think you're bluffing, Ethan Young? Ethan saw the panic in David's eyes despite his attempt at nonchalance. He calmly took a sip of his coffee, then said deliberately, "Last month, Seabreeze City Hotel. You took a group of trainees there, acting as a pimp. Last May, artist Lou committed suicide at home. Remember the suicide note on her computer? And the high school student who jumped off a building? You tried to lure him into becoming an idol. What happened after that?" With each example, Ethan tapped his index finger on the table. The sound wasn't loud, but felt piercing, as if drilling through David's ears and grabbing his brain. David's scalp tingled. He couldn't maintain his composure any longer and instinctively reached for his phone. Ethan said flatly, "It's too late to clean up the mess." He continued, "Guess how much evidence I've gathered over the past 5 years. I'm not the only one you've exploited. How many people have photos, recordings, videos? Forget just you. Your financial backers will be implicated too. Once this gets out and the FBI gets involved, it won't just be about money anymore. Right now, I'm still willing to sit here and talk this through calmly. You can take your time. Think about it. Think long and hard. How much leverage did Ethan Young actually have? What could he achieve with it?" As an insider, David Johnson knew all too well the dirty secrets behind the company. He didn't dare dwell on it. The more he thought, the more afraid he became. Cold sweat dripped down his back. He picked up the steaming coffee in front of him, intended to take a sip to calm down, but it was too hot. He flinched, knocking the scalding liquid all over himself. As he stood up to wipe it off, his foot caught on the chair leg, and he tumbled to the ground. David scrambled around clumsily, looking like a character in a silent comedy. His eyes red from the fall, David sat on the floor and looked up at Ethan. Ethan looked down at him condescendingly, a faint smile playing on his lips, his eyes holding a darkness that seemed out of place for his age. David felt like a monkey being put on display for amusement. He scrambled nervously to his feet, unsure whether to stand or sit, his gaze fixed blankly on the contract on the table. David never imagined things would come to this point, tearing away all pretense. "I really underestimated you, Ethan. Sign it." Ethan couldn't be bothered with small talk. "Given your current position in the company, you can sign this directly without needing to notify anyone else." David hesitated, mentally calculating the odds of regaining control over Ethan. Ethan leaned back relaxedly against the chair, his fingers interlaced on the table. "Serena and I have broken up. So, do you terminate the contract with someone like me, who's supposedly worthless now, or do you choose to fight me head-on, ensuring mutual destruction? Think carefully. I'm just one person. I have nothing to lose. But you guys are different. Let me see. How many people are involved? Boss Lee, Manager Zhang, Boss Lu from the Lu Group, Boss Wang, Director. How exactly will you bear the wrath of these backers when they get dragged into this?" David remembered what Serena had said that morning. She had made it clear. She was tired of Ethan. David calmed down and thought seriously. Ethan held grudges. Well, if David were in his shoes, he'd hold a grudge too. Ethan hadn't been treated well at the company over the years. Initially, they treated him like a male model, expecting him to entertain clients with drinks and potentially more, but Ethan had always resisted. Later, he got lucky and met Serena. Under her patronage, although the company prospered, Ethan received the worst resources. Everyone at the company treated him like a free resource to be exploited. Now that Serena was tired of Ethan, his usefulness had certainly diminished, but he still had his looks. Many people were attracted to his type. David's original plan, if he couldn't win back the wealthy Serena, was to find Ethan a new sponsor. But now Ethan was refusing to play along and demanding to terminate his contract. David hated being threatened. But now, with Ethan holding so much leverage, he had no choice but to calmly analyze how to minimize the risk. What choice would ensure his own safety? After thinking it over and over, he realized the only way to emerge unscathed was to go along with Ethan. He met Ethan's deep, unreadable eyes and thought about how Ethan had acted around Serena all these years, completely obedient, seemingly weak and incompetent. It was all an act, apparently. He'd been hiding his true intentions, fooling everyone. Finally, David borrowed a pen from the waiter and, with a trembling hand, signed the termination agreement. Ethan stood up, put away the agreement, and patted David's shoulder cheerfully as he left. "Thanks for taking care of me all these years." David stiffened abruptly, clenching his jaw, his face turning livid. It was already dark when Ethan left the coffee shop. Not long after he got home, he received a voice message from Grandma Wood. "Ciao, Che. I've spoken with my granddaughter. We've arranged it for next Friday. Are you free then?" "Okay, Friday it is." There were still 6 days until next Friday. Having just terminated his contract, Ethan had plenty of free time. Day 1 away from Serena, Ethan had successfully terminated his contract. The heavy weight he carried for years instantly vanished. He felt content and grounded. He never knew a day could pass so easily, that life could feel so relaxed. Even the trash cans on the street seemed well-behaved. In stark contrast, Serena spent her first day, without him, with a stomach ache, ordering takeout porridge all day. At 8 in the evening, Sophia Sullivan video called her, asking how she was feeling, if she was unwell. Serena looked awful, whether from illness or anger, it was hard to tell. Sitting on the sofa, her voice was hoarse. "I'm okay. If it's really bad, you should go to General Hospital. I know what I'm doing." Perhaps because she was sick, Serena didn't feel much like talking. Her voice was languid. Sophia didn't notice anything particularly wrong and continued chatting, somehow bringing up Ethan again. "Has Ethan contacted you?" Only a day had passed, but it felt like much longer to her. "No." Serena's tone was flat, making it impossible to guess her thoughts. Serena's loss of control yesterday was mostly attributable to alcohol. People lose control when they're drunk. It wasn't because she couldn't bear to part with Ethan. If anyone couldn't bear it, it should be Ethan who couldn't bear to leave her. Sophia said, "He's probably just throwing a tantrum because you kicked him out. But someone like him can't keep up the act for long. At his agency, Starlight Talent, who's going to invest in him or give him resources now that he doesn't have you? If it weren't for you all these years, he would have been devoured by that company, not even bones left. I guarantee, within a week, he'll come crawling back to you, begging for forgiveness." Serena thought the same. Once Ethan had sulked enough, he would come back to her on his own. Ethan's actions this time were certainly surprising. For years, he had given the impression of being obedient and honest, doing whatever he was told. Serena hadn't been so picky before, but after getting together with him, she developed an inexplicable compulsion for order. Shoes in the cabinet had to be perfectly aligned. She couldn't stand seeing dust. Every corner of the room had to be tidy. The air fresh flowers were placed regularly in the vase, and even the food couldn't repeat within a month. Even the fruit platter placed before her had to be the most beautiful. The cherry she liked had to be uniform in size, the strawberries unblemished, and when eating cake, it absolutely had to be cut into a perfect triangle. The entire house was adjusted according to Serena's habits and preferences. Under Ethan's meticulous care, Serena's life these past few years had been comfortable and well cared for. It sounded absurd, but Ethan had indeed perfectly executed every single detail. If Lucas hadn't come back, Serena really wouldn't have had the heart to kick Ethan out. If it were Lucas, he definitely wouldn't be as attentive as Ethan. But liking someone wasn't about whether they could do these things. After all, she wasn't dating a servant. Now that she was with Lucas, she couldn't bear to get angry at him, let alone have him do such chores. When it came to people she liked, Serena had a clear double standard. Sophia watched Serena sink into thought on the video call and tentatively asked, Wei, actually, you do feel a bit reluctant to let Ethan go, don't you?" "I'm just not used to it." Serena took a deep breath and shared her true feelings with Sophia. "I told Ethan to move out, not to just block me without a word." Subconsciously, even if Ethan left her, he was still supposed to be her dog, coming when called and leaving when dismissed. Only she had the right to block him. How dare he? Did he think he was worthy? Serena couldn't forget Lucas, yet she couldn't let go of Ethan either. Ultimately, she was just making the same mistake many men make, like that line from TV shows. She certainly wasn't the only one capable of having feelings for two people. She could love someone's soul and also desire someone's body. The two weren't mutually exclusive. Serena had been the one to kick Ethan out, but ironically, she was the one struggling to adjust. When a stomach ache flared up, Serena went looking for her usual medicine, searching for a long time without finding it. Details like her specific medication, necessitated by her allergies, were things Ethan always remembered, even better than she did. Listening to Sophia chatter on lifted Serena's spirits considerably, and even her stomach ache lessened. But Serena knew Sophia was likely just consoling her because of the Sinclair family standing. Some words of comfort were meant to be heard, not necessarily believed. Sophia had a gut feeling that Ethan was serious this time, suspecting Serena hadn't yet grasped the gravity of the situation. It's often said that those involved can't see clearly, while bystanders can. No matter how difficult Serena had been in the past, Ethan had never gone so far as to block her. It was like when people throw things in anger. They usually smash worthless items, always leaving themselves a way back. If Ethan couldn't truly bear to leave Serena, he wouldn't have taken such a drastic step. He knew Serena's temperament. Blocking her meant extinguishing any possibility between them. A thought struck Sophia. Was it possible Ethan didn't actually like Serena that much? Maybe they had just assumed he couldn't live without her. If a week passed and Ethan didn't reach out, would Serena even care? In this relationship, who truly couldn't leave whom? And who was playing games with whom? Clearly, Serena hadn't considered these deeper questions. She remained self-assured, confidently waiting for Ethan to come crawling back to her. In her view, Ethan was just some poor kid devoted to his sick sister, willing to do anything for money. Therefore, all she needed to do was hit him where it hurt. First, cut off his income, and second, ensure his sister couldn't get treatment. Serena was certain Ethan would contact her eventually. When he did, she planned to punish him thoroughly for the audacity of blocking her. She considered this week a short break for him. Most people disciplined others with a slap, followed by a sweet gesture. But Serena preferred to offer the sweet first, followed by endless slaps. After her chat with Sophia, Serena put down her phone and went to take a shower. When she came out, she saw a new text message notification. Her first instinct was that it was from Ethan. Tapping on it, she saw it wasn't Ethan, but Lucas Taylor. Serena, I'm flying back the day after tomorrow. Will you meet me at the airport? I want to see you. Serena instinctively tightened her grip on her phone. That evening, Ethan went to the supermarket and bought ingredients for hot pot. It had been a long time since he'd made it for himself at home. Serena disliked hot pot, and naturally, Ethan wasn't allowed to touch anything she didn't like. Ethan bought everything he craved. Eating hot pot alone didn't feel lonely. Instead, it felt liberating. At home, watching TV, he savored each bite of meat and vegetables with deep satisfaction. His tastes were the polar opposite of Serena's. She preferred bland flavors, leaning towards Southern cuisine, while Ethan loved spicy food, especially spicy barbecue. Serena had always been strict about his diet, forbidding him from eating too much or gaining weight, because her idealized crush, Lucas Taylor, was very thin. When he first got together with Serena, he'd been robust, a well-built 6 feet 2 inches man with solid muscle. But later, in an effort to make him resemble Lucas, she had molded him into more of a pretty boy. The transformation, coupled with frequent blood draws, had left him poorly nourished and hypoglycemic. Thankfully, he was finally free of her. From now on, he could eat whatever he wanted, do whatever he pleased. He resolved to be happy every day, to regain his health, and to stop being a carbon copy of someone else. Ethan leisurely enjoyed his hot pot for over an hour. Rubbing his full stomach, he stretched out on the sofa to relax. Picking up his phone to check the time, he noticed a friend request in his messages. It was from a user named Zara with a plain black profile picture. Ethan glanced down at the request message. 2 simple words, blind date. Ethan immediately thought of the granddaughter grandma, what it set him up with. Grandma would always refer to her either as her eldest granddaughter or just Zara, so he hadn't actually learned her full name. Ethan accepted the request. The timestamp showed it had been sent an hour ago. It was already 10 p.m. She was probably asleep by now. Just as Ethan was about to put his phone down, a message popped up from her. Hello, I'm Zara Sinclair, the blind date. Hi, I'm Ethan Young. The awkwardness was palpable even through the screen. It was Ethan's first time in this situation, and he wasn't sure how to continue the conversation. Ethan clicked on her profile, but her feed was set to show only the last 3 days of activity. He guessed she was probably a very private person. After a moment, Zara sent another message, a location pin for a restaurant near Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center. Zara, would meeting at this restaurant next Friday work for you? Ethan, sure. I can book a private room. Zara, okay. Ethan mentally added another trait to his impression of her, decisive. Though he hadn't met her, he pictured a formidable career woman in a black pantsuit, serious and unsmiling. Zara Sinclair. Ethan repeated the name to himself. It felt vaguely, unsettlingly familiar. Seeing her message, get some rest. Good night. Ethan quickly replied, good night, adding a default emoji that popped up automatically. With the conversation clearly over, Ethan put his phone down and went to wash the dishes. Halfway through, a connection suddenly clicked in his mind. Zara Sinclair, the eldest daughter of the Sinclair family. Serena's older sister. Ethan Young had wondered about Grandma Wood's family background, but he'd never connected her to the Sinclairs of Maplewood. Grandma would never discuss her family when they chatted. The person she mentioned most often was her eldest granddaughter. According to her, she had raised Zara Sinclair herself. Grandma Wood's husband had died young, at 60, when Zara was only 6. Ethan hesitated. Perhaps his negative experiences with Serena made him reluctant to meet anyone from the Sinclair family. He worried about jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire. Ethan wasn't impulsive or adventurous by nature. As the saying goes, once bitten, twice shy. To be safe, Ethan looked up Zara online. She had been abroad for nearly 6 years, and there wasn't much information about her. The most notable item was from an SAT exam several years prior. In a blurry photo, a young woman with a high ponytail gazed calmly at the camera. Her figure was slim, and even in the indistinct picture, her fine bone structure and expressive features were evident. Ethan racked his brain, tried to recall anything about Zara. He thought about it late into the night, but came up empty. One thing was clear, though: Serena and her sister didn't have a good relationship. In the past 5 years, Serena had mentioned her parents, classmates, and friends, but never her sister. In fact, she seemed actively resistant to any mention of her. Ethan recalled a charity gala Serena had taken him to. When someone casually mentioned Zara Sinclair, Serena's expression had instantly darkened. Ethan thought he could guess some of the reasons for Serena's dislike. Zara grew up with their grandmother and had little contact with Serena, so the sisters hadn't developed much of a bond. Then there was the inevitable comparison. Compared to Zara, who had excelled since childhood, Serena fell short. Her grades weren't as good, her abilities less remarkable. Zara had spent 6 years abroad handling business and took over Taylor Holdings immediately upon her return. The gap between them would only widen. Serena was highly competitive. Facing a sister she couldn't measure up to in any way, it was natural she'd feel resentful. Thinking about Serena's likely frustration with Zara, Ethan's interest in Zara grew. He wanted to find out what she was really like. His perspective shifted quickly. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling strangely at ease, and soon fell asleep. The first day after Ethan left, Serena had a stomachache all day. She ate plain congee, but everything tasted bland. The second day, she overslept. There was no breakfast waiting for her when she got up, and while waiting for delivery, her blood sugar suddenly dropped, nearly causing her to faint. She ordered takeout for 2 days from her usual restaurant. It wasn't bad, but it just didn't taste as good as Ethan's cooking. Her period, which had been ending, started up again due to her stress over the past 2 days. She also broke out with a pimple and couldn't find her usual medication. Serena had never imagined Ethan's absence would throw her off so much. Nothing seemed to go right. The triumphant feeling she'd expected wasn't there. Instead, everything felt like a mess. If she had known, she wouldn't have been in such a hurry to push Ethan away. Things needed to happen gradually, giving her body time to adjust, a buffer period. Without a proper transition, the stark contrast was impossible to handle. If she was having a hard time, Ethan must be having it even worse. She was just struggling with daily inconveniences. Ethan's situation was different. For 5 years, he had lived a high life with her, residing in a penthouse, wearing the finest clothes where even casual outfits cost 5 figures or more. He worked when he felt like it, unlike ordinary people punching a clock daily, chasing perfect attendance, or haggling over pennies of the market. Wasn't everything he ate, wore, and used top of the line? Thanks to her, even his sister had been admitted to the Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center for treatment. Without her, Ethan could never have enjoyed such a lifestyle. The wealth gap creates inherent class differences. She was the one who brought Ethan into the world of the rich, showed him sophistication, exposed him to extravagant luxury and dazzling nightlife. It's hard to go from luxury to simplicity. She'd only given him $200,000. Ethan definitely wouldn't last long. She had coddled Ethan for 5 years, rendering him useless. Apart from starring in a few B-movies, he didn't know how to do anything else. Someone like him, going back to Starlight Talent Agency, would just be exploited. Without her, he'd eventually be chewed up and spat out, left with nothing. Thinking this way, Serena instantly felt much better. Lucas Taylor's flight was scheduled to arrive at Maplewood International Airport around 8:00 p.m. To create the perfect picture of a long-awaited reunion, Serena hired a stylist to apply exquisite makeup, concealing the weariness of the past 2 days. Serena arrived at the airport early. After waiting for nearly half an hour, a figure emerged from the stream of arriving passengers. Lucas wore a camel-colored wool coat over a black turtleneck sweater, simple yet stylish. He traveled light, with only a single suitcase. Lucas had only been 20 when he went abroad. Now, 25, he was around the same age as Ethan, but overall, Ethan clearly possessed more maturity and restraint. After 5 years, Lucas was a little taller, his skin still fair, and he remained slender. It had to be said, Lucas and Ethan looked quite similar, especially the lower half of their faces. As he approached with his head slightly lowered, Serena almost mistook him for Ethan. "Serena, didn't you recognize me?" Lucas asked, standing in front of her, looking helplessly at her blank stare. Serena snapped back to reality. "No, I was just thinking. You haven't changed much in 5 years." "Really?" Lucas's eyes traced Serena's features. He sighed. "You've really changed." Serena asked, "How have I changed?" "You become more beautiful, more mature, and you look more and more like Zara. You really are sisters, after all." Serena didn't notice that when Lucas mentioned Zara, his weary expression brightened. The first part of his comment made her happy, but the second half ruined her mood for the entire day. Serena's feelings about Zara were complicated. When they were young, she'd admired her, thinking she was amazing. Later, as people paid more attention to Zara, Serena grew jealous and afraid of her. Since childhood, she hadn't liked being around Zara. As daughters of the Sinclair family, they were destined to be constantly compared. Life was so unfair. Not only did Zara get a beautiful face, but she also got brains, making Serena feel inferior in every way. The year Zara was away studying abroad were the most relaxing years of Serena's life. If she could, she'd wish Zara would never come back. That way, her parents would only have one daughter, the Sinclair family only one young lady. The entire family would dote only on her, and the family fortune would be all hers. The driver standing beside Serena reached out and took Lucas's suitcase. As they walked, Serena asked, "Have you eaten yet? I made reservations at a Michelin restaurant in Seabreeze City. Let's just head straight there. I ate a little on the plane. Everything's been fine these past few years in Y Country, except the food was terrible. The pork tasted off, the chicken was dry, and they barely used any seasoning. When I first got there, I lived on burgers, but I got sick of steak too." Lucas couldn't help complaining when talking about life abroad. The first thing he wanted to do after returning was have a huge, satisfying meal. Serena scoffed. "Serves you right." Lucas gave a sheepish smile and nudged her gently with his shoulder, just like he used to. "Still mad?" he asked softly. "It was wrong of me not to tell you beforehand. I messed up. I apologize. Punish me however you want. How about this? I'll come over tomorrow and show off my cooking skills." Truthfully, Serena wasn't angry anymore. Although Lucas's sudden departure abroad had been hard to accept, she'd found a substitute to fill the void in the past 5 years. She knew how to adapt and enjoyed life. Besides, she had kept in touch with Lucas frequently over those 5 years. Serena had a difficult personality and a notoriously bad temper. But with Lucas, she summoned all her tolerance and patience. She'd often thought about cutting him off completely, but she'd soon forget her anger and go back to teasing and bantering with him as if nothing had happened. Since Lucas was offering an olive branch, she decided to take it. "What if I don't like your cooking? I'll make my specialty. I guarantee you'll love it." Lucas continued to placate her. "Come on, Your Highness, don't be mad anymore. I'm back for good this time. I'll have plenty of time to spend with you from now on. I'll do whatever you ask." "Fine. Then you have to be available whenever I call for the rest of the month. And tomorrow, you're taking me shopping on Rodeo Drive. On your black card. You really don't hold back, do you? Not even letting me catch my breath." They got into the car and headed to the restaurant. Serena had arranged for the food to be served as soon as they arrived, so they could eat immediately. The table was laden with all of Lucas's favorite dishes. He picked up his knife and fork and began to eat. Even though he was starving, he ate slowly and deliberately. Serena wasn't particularly hungry. She sipped her red wine, quietly watching Lucas across the table. She was looking at Lucas, but thinking of Ethan. Seeing Lucas up close now, she realized they didn't actually look that similar. Ethan's features were noticeably more refined and harmonious. His deep-set eyes gave him a slightly intense look. She had spent years trying to make Ethan resemble Lucas more. First, she'd changed Ethan's hairstyle from a buzz cut to a longer style, like a boy band member's, that softened his sharp eyes by covering his brows. Then came the skincare routine to lighten his skin, dieting to make him thinner, changing his entire wardrobe. Slowly, he had started to look more and more like Lucas. "What are you thinking about?" Lucas asked, breaking her trance. "You're staring at me without blinking. Is my table manner that bad?" Serena explained, "No, I just didn't sleep well last night." Lucas gave her a knowing look. "Oh, couldn't sleep because you were too excited about picking me up today?" "Don't flatter yourself." Lucas chuckled, then put down his utensils. "By the way, have you seen Zara?" Serena frowned. "You didn't know Zara's back?" "I was planning to fly back with her, but she booked an earlier first-class flight without telling me." She's been back for 2 days already. I assumed you'd seen her. At the mention of Zara, Serena's expression soured. Haven't seen her. Didn't even know she was back. You haven't been staying on the Upper East Side recently? No, I'm living near Central Park South. If there was one area where Serena felt superior, it was her parents' affection. Zara had been raised by their grandparents and hadn't spent much time at home growing up. Even twins sometimes face unequal treatment, let alone an older daughter raised away from her parents. Although her parents loved Serena more, they were also stricter with her, treating her like a child even though she was 25. When Serena first started supporting Ethan, she still lived at home and would only visit him when she thought of it. But Ethan played his part well. Besides looking like Lucas, he took meticulous care of her daily needs. Gradually, Serena grew tired of her parents' rules and simply moved out to live with Ethan. Lucas couldn't stop talking about Zara, his eyes sparkling. Now that Zara's finally back, they'll probably throw a charity gala for her, right? Did you know she closed a huge M&A deal on Wall Street? She's incredible. I've never met a more impressive woman. And she's only 3 years older than me. In their social circle, Zara was the perfect child everyone else was compared to, outstanding in every way. Lucas had admired her since they were kids. He looked at Serena, sitting opposite him. Both were Sinclair daughters, yet the difference between them felt vast. He and Serena had known each other since they were toddlers, practically grew up together. Their parents had arranged their engagement when they were still in diapers. They attended Phillips Academy together, went to yacht parties together, played together. Getting together romantically as adults had felt natural. Lucas wasn't opposed to marrying Serena. They had the bond of childhood sweethearts, and she was beautiful, arguably the most eligible woman he knew from any angle. Until he really saw Zara. Zara had an air of mystery that made people want to uncover her secrets. Men are explorers at heart, and to Lucas, Zara was like a treasure map. He was always discovering surprising new facets to her personality when he least expected it. Compared to Serena, the impeccably polished heiress, Zara dressed simply and disliked jewelry. On Wall Street, she wore her hair in a low ponytail and regarded everyone with an indifferent gaze, as if no one could truly capture her interest, equally dismissive of all the investment banking elites. Whenever Lucas met her gaze, his heart would race. There was an inexplicable thrill to it. Lucas Taylor preferred Zara Sinclair to her sister, Serena. If an arranged marriage between the families was inevitable, could he choose Zara instead? Lucas agonized over this, trying to find a solution. Their shared history made it impossible for him to reject Serena outright, and breaking off the engagement unilaterally would be a huge embarrassment for both families. So, he opted for distance as a delaying tactic, moving alone to Country Y when he was 20. Serena had screamed and cried over the phone back then, demanding to know what was so great about Country Y. Country Y wasn't great, but Zara was there. No one ever suspected anything between him and Zara. They barely interacted, and Zara had always been coolly indifferent, never giving him a second glance. Life in Country Y hadn't been easy. When he first arrived, everything felt foreign, the customs, the food, the language barrier. He'd slowly endured it all and adapted. Except, Zara remained resolutely indifferent towards him over the years. They barely saw each other, maybe a few times a year. If he didn't initiate contact, she probably would have forgotten he existed. She treated him barely better than a stranger. Even her young assistant seemed closer to her. He could only privately fume and console himself, telling himself it was just a particularly difficult challenge. The more Zara ignored him, the more hopelessly infatuated he became, dreaming constantly of marrying her. Winning over a woman like her felt like conquering a wild beast. The sense of accomplishment would be immense. He figured, no matter how formidable a woman was, once she married, she'd still end up bearing children for her husband. Unable to see Zara, Lucas felt hollow inside, food losing its taste. He put down his utensils and stared across the table at Serena, who seemed lost in thought. Her vaguely similar features offered scant relief for his longing. If only she looked more like her sister, if only Zara were sitting across from him, if only Zara liked him back. The more he dwelled on if only, the deeper his disappointment grew. Lucas sighed inwardly. He'd hoped to get some news about Zara from Serena now that he was back, but she didn't seem to know anything. By the time they finished dinner, it was already 10. Where are you staying tonight? Heading home, Serena asked casually. Could I stay here with you? Would that be okay? Serena was thrilled at the prospect of Lucas staying over and agreed immediately. It wasn't until they reached her apartment building that she suddenly remembered all the things she'd bought for Ethan were still out. Serena hesitated, and Lucas, walking beside her, immediately noticed. "What's wrong?" "Oh, I haven't tidied up recently. It's a bit messy." "I don't mind. Come on, even if it's a total pigsty, I won't judge." Serena had no choice but to steel herself and lead the way. She couldn't very well change her mind now and tell him to leave. On the way up in the elevator, she frantically tried to remember if Ethan had left anything in the living room, dining area, or kitchen. When they finally reached her door, Serena unlocked it and handed Lucas a pair of guest slippers from the shoe cabinet. Lucas took them, glancing around the entryway. "It looks perfectly clean to me. Looks like you have everything you need. Do you live alone, or do you have a housekeeper?" Feeling guilty, Serena slipped on her own slippers. "I had a housekeeper, but she quit recently." "Ah, that explains how tidy it is. So, where will I sleep tonight?" There were 4 bedrooms. Lucas happened to be standing nearest to the one Ethan had used. Serena quickly steered him towards the next door down. "You can take this room. That one's just used for storage. It's a mess." Worried he might accidentally go in there later, Serena waited until Lucas wasn't looking, then quickly locked the door with a key. Lucas didn't seem to notice. He suddenly asked, "Vivi, do you remember my birthday?" Of course, Serena remembered. Every year, she prepared something for Lucas's birthday. Even while he was abroad, she'd send a gift and call him right on time, never missing it. But this year, if Lucas hadn't brought it up, she might have completely forgotten. Lucas's birthday was October 20th, this coming Friday. It was almost here, and she'd actually forgotten such an important date. It was all Ethan's fault. If he hadn't turned her life upside down, she never would have forgotten Lucas's birthday. Better to blame someone else than herself. Thankfully, Lucas had reminded her, giving her a little time to find a present. Serena composed herself, forcing a calm smile. "Of course I remember. Have I ever forgotten your birthday? My family's throwing a birthday party for me. You should bring your friends along." "Okay, I'll round up some people to celebrate with you." They chatted in the living room for a bit longer, then, seeing how late it was, went to their respective rooms. Serena wondered what gift to get Lucas. Custom items would take too long. She'd have to buy something off the shelf. Back in his room, Lucas sat on the bed scrolling through his phone. He opened his chat history with Zara. Zara was cool towards everyone. She rarely replied unless it was important, and even then, her messages were incredibly brief, often just a single word like a kid to end the conversation. He'd been considered quite the catchback in school. Girls were always asking for his number, finding excuses to talk to him, trying to get his attention. Only Zara consistently shut him down. Lucas mulled it over, then, just before midnight, he sent Zara a message. "Zara, it's my birthday this Friday. My family's throwing a party. Any chance you'd be free to come?" It was a simple message, but he agonized over the wording, rereading it countless times before cautiously hitting send. He waited for a long time, but no reply came. She might be asleep, or maybe she hadn't seen it. Lucas felt a pang of disappointment. If there was still no word by morning, he'd ask his family to extend the invitation formally. Perhaps she'd come out of respect for the elders. Perhaps because he had so much on his mind, Lucas slept poorly. Each time he woke, he instinctively reached for his phone, checking if Zara had replied. At 7 in the morning, his phone pinged with a notification. Lucas grabbed it before his eyes were fully open. Seeing it was a reply from Zara, he shot upright, fingers trembling as he tapped the screen. "Busy Friday. Can't make it." Just as he'd expected, his fleeting excitement plummeted. His expression soured as he typed back, frustrated. "What's going on? You're busy the whole day? What about Saturday?" He pressed on, determined to pin her down for a time if she claimed she had none. This time, his message went unanswered. She clearly had no intention of engaging with him. Lucas felt a surge of anger and indignation. When had he ever had to chase someone who treated him so coldly? Couldn't even get a simple text back. During his first week on his own, Ethan Young cleaned his new place thoroughly. The house felt empty and needed a lot of basic supplies. Ethan bought not only furniture and appliances, but also plenty of houseplants. He turned the balcony into a small oasis, a place where he could work, read, or just relax. Only he and Emily Young lived there now. Emily had a heart condition, so a quiet life, tending plants, reading, maintaining a slow pace to rest and recuperate, suited her best. On Wednesday, Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center called to say they could no longer stay in the hospital room. He needed to arrange for Emily's discharge from the VIP ward as soon as possible. "Mr. Young, I'm very sorry to inform you that the VIP rooms here at Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center are currently in extremely high demand. We need to prioritize patients with more severe conditions who require urgent, specialized care and facilities. We hope you can understand and cooperate with our arrangements by completing the necessary procedures to vacate your current VIP room as soon as possible. Additionally, Miss Sinclair, who was previously responsible for payments, has ceased making them. From now on, you will be personally responsible for all subsequent medical expenses. Please ensure payments are made on time and in full so that your sister's treatment can continue without interruption. Okay. Ethan was remarkably calm when he took the call. I'll move Emily out within the week. This outcome was entirely expected. Because he had already planned to transfer her to another hospital, Ethan accepted it readily. Yes, Ethan was planning to transfer hospitals, not just rooms. The rehabilitation center where Emily was staying had top-tier doctors and medical equipment. Emily had been there so long, over a year now, without an episode, that besides the high cost, there were no other issues. It wasn't that Ethan couldn't afford to keep his sister there. His current savings were more than enough to cover Emily's medical bills. But this rehabilitation center belonged to the Sinclair family. In short, it was Serena's territory. Ethan worried Serena would use this to cause trouble, afraid the staff might mistreat Emily or provide inadequate care. Furthermore, his sister deserved the best rehabilitation center, the best treatment, the best room, and the best care. Maplewood wasn't short on good medical centers. They could go elsewhere, still find a VIP room. If that didn't work, they could leave Maplewood altogether. It was just the two of them, brother and sister, relying on each other. Couldn't they make a life anywhere? It wasn't like they had to live and die here. Knowing Serena, Ethan understood that if he gave an inch, she would take a mile. Ethan called Emily and briefly explained the hospital transfer. Emily reacted just as she had before, no objections. She always took things as they came, her attitude steady and optimistic. Ethan asked softly, "What do you want for lunch?" "I want clam chowder," Serena said. Lucas, sitting across from her, stared blankly, making her feel uncomfortable. "What's wrong? Don't you like clam chowder?" Serena asked. Lucas chuckled wryly. "It's not that I don't like it, it's that you don't. I remember back when we were in school, my family made seafood soup all the time, especially in middle and high school. Almost once a week, supposedly for omega-3s. Clam chowder was a regular. You tried it twice, and both times you got scratched by clam shells. After that, you wouldn't touch the stuff. If you had soup, it was lobster bisque, something without little broken shells." As he spoke, Lucas couldn't help but sigh. How have your tastes changed so much in 5 years? Many things can change a person's tastes. Growing older, environmental factors, or even another person. They say if you live with someone long enough, your tastes gradually align. Serena's heart skipped a beat. She had blurted it out subconsciously. She used to hate clam chowder, not because the soup wasn't good, but because dealing with the broken shells was too much trouble. The shells were small and numerous, and there wasn't much soup in a bowl to begin with. Filtering out the shells left almost nothing. She never had much patience. A single grain of sand in her mouth would make her spit out the soup along with it. If she wasn't careful and swallowed a piece, a broken shell could get stuck in her throat for ages. She'd had shells removed at the emergency room twice and was traumatized by it, avoiding anything with clams ever since. So why had Serena suddenly developed a love for clam chowder? Because Ethan made it. Once, when she was sick, Ethan had taken it upon himself to make her clam chowder. Before she could get angry, he was already holding a spoonful of the carefully strained, thick soup to her lips. Later, she tried clams prepared in various ways, grilled clams, clam pasta. Clams were plumpest in winter when the seawater was cold, making the meat firm, sweet, and fresh. Even Serena, who generally disliked seafood, would have 2 bowls. As long as Ethan was there, she never had to worry about leftover shell fragments. "I thought you liked it," Serena explained. "It's all right for me. It was mainly my mom who liked it. She used to make it whenever she had time. I got so sick of back in high school. But hearing you mention it, I actually kind of feel like having some clam chowder now." Lucas quickly decided, "All right, let's find a restaurant and get some clam chowder for lunch. We got the soup covered. What about other dishes? Should I order you a lobster roll?" Serena didn't have much of an appetite. She shook her head. "Just the soup is fine. We can order the rest when we get there." At the same time, on a different table, sat a steaming bowl of seafood soup. Emily cleaned out every bit of clam meat, while Serena just stared at hers. Serena had specifically chosen a private kitchen restaurant in Seabreeze City whose chef had been featured on food shows. The pot of clam chowder was perfectly creamy white and smelled delicious. You knew it was good just by the aroma. Serena didn't eat the clam meat, just ladled a small bowl of the broth, took 2 sips, and put the bowl down. The taste was good, but it felt like something was missing. She looked at the clams in the pot without scooping any. They had ordered a lot of food, and much of it was left untouched. Watching Lucas calmly eating his seafood across from her, Serena thought of Ethan meticulously filtering shells for her, and a wave of unease washed over her. Today was Wednesday. Ethan had been gone for 4 days. She had thought the disruption to her routine would gradually fade, but she found herself thinking of Ethan more and more frequently. It used to be that she looked at Ethan and thought of Lucas. Now she looked at Lucas and thought of Ethan. What did Ethan have that compared to Lucas? He couldn't hold a candle to Lucas. Thinking about him so often wasn't because she missed him, but simply a lingering fixation on the time and energy she had invested in him over the years. Ethan's goodness was something she had cultivated, a project she had spent 5 years polishing. Suddenly discarding, it naturally led to a brief pang of regret. People are like that. They don't cherish what they have until it's gone. Like a dog at home. When the dog's there, you complain about the shedding and the smell. Once the dog is lost, seeing the dog food makes you want to feed it. Seeing the leash makes you want to walk it. And when you're sad, you want to pet it. Serena took out her phone. By now, Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center must have notified Ethan about moving rooms. He hadn't contacted her yet, but she believed he would soon. Forcing the room change was the first step. Next, Starlight Talent Agency would pressure him. Cornered, he would contact her, just like 5 years ago. It was just strange. She had made things very clear on the phone Sunday morning. Why hadn't Ethan's management team made a move yet? Serena Sinclair was trying to figure out where to hide Ethan Young once she got him back. Maplewood wasn't huge, but it wasn't tiny either. Hiding someone there should be pretty easy. Serena owned a lot of property. Pineview Estates was far from the city center, out in the woods, a good place to hide someone. Serena had been there twice with friends. It was perfect for picnics and barbecues with land and a pond. Ethan could grow some organic vegetables and fruits there, maybe do some fishing when he had free time. Lots of reality shows were filmed in the countryside these days, and many people online long for that kind of idyllic life. She figured Ethan would probably like it too. He was slow to warm up to people and had once casually mentioned to her that he liked a slower pace of life. Honestly, she treated Ethan really well. Besides Lucas Taylor, when had anyone seen her put so much effort into a man? She thought of everything, considered every detail. Without her, there wouldn't be the Ethan of today. Ethan should be eternally grateful to her. Even if he left, he should see her as his benefactor, not just block her contact. On Wednesday and Thursday, Serena went to Lucas's house. Both sets of parents were there. Seeing the two of them standing together, the parents praised them just like they used to, saying how well-matched they were, childhood sweethearts, a handsome man and a beautiful woman, a perfect couple, things like that. Lucas hadn't been home in 5 years. Now that he was finally back, his 26th birthday party absolutely had to be a grand affair at the best hotel. Preparations for the party had started 2 weeks ago. These couple of days were mainly for briefing Lucas on the detailed arrangements. Taylor Holdings had been actively expanding its business areas in recent years, connecting with more and more partners. As the young master of Taylor Holdings, Lucas needed to integrate into the right circles and expand his own network. Therefore, this wasn't just a simple birthday party. It was a gathering of wealthy individuals and elites from various fields, looking for potential business opportunities. Lucas needed to be on top of his game, fully alert. Luckily, he had Serena by his side to help him. "Don't worry," Serena assured him. "I'll be with you the whole time. I won't let you make any mistakes." Lucas nodded. He wasn't very enthusiastic when the party was mentioned. The only thing he hoped for on his 26th birthday was that Zara Sinclair would be there. Unfortunately, he was destined for disappointment because that day, Zara was busy going on a blind date. On Thursday, Ethan processed his hospital transfer paperwork. On Friday, he went on the blind date. On Saturday, he moved his luggage and took Emily home from the hospital. Ethan had already found a new medical center. It was close to home, only a 15 to 20-minute drive, and easily accessible by subway too. Ethan had packed his schedule so tightly, he didn't even have time to think about Serena. Friday arrived quickly. Ethan hadn't told Emily about his blind date, mainly because he subconsciously felt things wouldn't work out with a woman. Never mind that she was Serena's older sister. Just considering Zara's family background, education, and career, she was leagues ahead of him. If he hadn't happened to rescue Grandma Wood, he and Zara likely would never have ended up sitting across from each other on a blind date in their entire lives. For words describe the difference between him and Zara, worlds apart. For this date, Ethan had gotten a haircut, slightly longer than a buzz cut. With his brow and eyes visible, his whole appearance brightened, giving him the vibrant look of a 25-year-old. Regardless of how today turned out, cleaning himself up showed respect for the other person. The agreed time was 11 in the morning. Ethan arrived at the private room 20 minutes early. At 10:50, he finally took out his phone and sent Zara a text. "I'm here," she replied quickly. "Just a moment, I'm parking." After another 5 minutes, Ethan had ordered tea. The door to the private room opened, and a graceful figure walked in. Ethan looked up, his gaze unintentionally landing on her, and froze. The woman wore a black trench coat over a white blouse and dress slacks. Her hair was pulled back halfway, and a pair of gold-rimmed glasses rested on her elegant nose. It was a very professional look. She approached him in high heels, each step echoing. He had searched online for information about Zara before, finding very little. But from a few major milestones mentioned, he could tell she was exceptionally accomplished. There were some old photos, though the quality was blurry, it couldn't obscure her beauty. She stood out in a crowd, the kind of person who immediately caught your eye. The Sinclair family had good genes. Serena was a beauty, so naturally, her sister wouldn't be lacking either. Ethan had seen her photos, had an impression, and had mentally prepared himself, but seeing her in person for the first time still took his breath away. She wasn't far from what he'd imagined. Cool and distant, clearly a powerful businesswoman at first glance. Her aura immediately marked her as someone extraordinary. She looked less like she was here for a blind date and more like she was here to discuss business. Ethan quickly stood up as he came to his senses. Before he could speak, she said, "Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm Zara Sinclair, your blind date." Their eyes met. A flicker passed through Zara's eyes, and her lips curved into a polite smile. "Not at all. I just arrived too," Ethan replied, feeling a bit awkward and nervous, unsure what else to say. "Let me reintroduce myself. I'm Ethan Young, 25, almost 26. They stood facing each other, neither having sat down yet. Now it was Zara's turn to study him. Ethan could clearly feel her gaze moving over his face. He wasn't sure if it was his imagination, but he felt Zara's look soften, as if even her glasses held some warmth. Zara extended her hand. "It's nice to meet you." Ethan looked down at her long, slender fingers and gently took her hand. "Nice to meet you too." He was about to let go when she suddenly tightened her grip. Ethan's heart skipped a beat, his eyes wide with surprise. He saw her smiling gently. "Mr. Young, there's a question I'd like to ask you." Ethan regained his composure. "Go ahead. Would you mind if your partner was 3 years older than you?" "I wouldn't mind. In that case, I have a form here I'd like you to fill out." "What kind of form?" "A marriage application." Ethan Young had assumed the form Zara Sinclair mentioned was some kind of matchmaking profile, something to gauge their compatibility. He never imagined she meant a marriage application. At first, Ethan thought she must have misspoke. He studied her expression carefully before realizing she was completely serious. It caught him utterly off guard. Ethan and Zara faced each other. Her expression remained gentle, her eyes behind her lenses like crushed ice melting in the sun. After a moment of stunned silence, Ethan said, "Miss Sinclair, isn't this a little fast?" Zara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she released his hand. "Fast? Why don't we sit down and chat properly first?" Zara sat, signaled for a waiter, and began flipping through the thick menu with slender, pale fingers. She looked down, wisps of hair falling across her forehead, obscuring her vision. As she scanned the menu, she reached up to tuck the strands behind her ear. The warm overhead light caught her perfectly. She didn't need to say a word. Just sitting there quietly, she looked like a precious painting. "What would you like to eat?" Zara looked up slightly. The interruption eased Ethan's earlier tension. "Anything's fine with me. Just order what you like. I just got back to the country, so I don't really know what's good here. Could you recommend something?" Zara leaned forward slightly, turning the menu around and pushing it toward Ethan. Since she'd asked, Ethan could hardly refuse. "Do you have any dietary restrictions?" "No, I can eat anything." Ethan had been to this restaurant before and knew a few decent dishes. "These signature dishes are good. Some are a bit spicy. Is that okay with you?" "Yes." Since 2 people wouldn't eat a huge amount, Ethan ordered 3 dishes, a clam chowder, plus the house signature dessert and drinks. After ordering, Ethan handed the menu back to the waiter and poured Zara a cup of tea. "Miss Sinclair." Overall, she was still a stranger to Ethan. He barely knew her. He'd wondered how the meeting might go, but he hadn't expected things to escalate so quickly, catching him completely unprepared. Zara hummed in acknowledgement. Ethan reminded her, "Marriage is a serious commitment. You don't know anything about my character, my family background, my education, or my past." Honestly, Ethan wasn't ready to marry so quickly. They barely knew each other, and marrying impulsively felt too risky. Zara suggesting marriage right off the bat reminded him of Serena, who had also asked him to sign a contract to be a stand-in after only meeting him once. He couldn't help wondering, could Zara also see him as a substitute for someone else? Alarm bells instantly rang in his head. Zara watched his reaction. It was natural for him to be cautious when she'd brought up marriage so suddenly. She took a sip of tea and stated matter-of-factly, "My grandmother raised me. She always gave me the very best. So I trust her judgment, and I trust your character. Family background and education don't concern me. Frankly, no one really measures up to me anyway. As for the past, everyone has one. I'm more focused on the present and the future." Although it was their first time meeting, Zara felt she already knew Ethan, probably because Grandma would have mentioned him so often. According to her grandmother, Ethan was thoughtful, kind, filial, patient, and a fantastic cook. Plus, he was handsome and had even acted on TV. When Zara heard about the TV roles, she looked them up and cringed. His recent characters were far from flattering. Disfigured men, beggars, or even elderly characters, despite him being only in his 20s. But she had to admit, Ethan was a genuinely talented actor. He played these roles, so different from himself, completely convincingly. These performances had sparked Zara's interest in him. Meeting him today, she had to agree with Grandma Wood's assessment. His face alone, striking features, unforgettable, was exactly her type. Beautiful things tend to lift one's spirits. Ethan revised his impression of Zara. Confident, even bold. Unlike Serena, Zara's confidence wasn't grating. But still, deciding on something as crucial as marriage without a second thought? They'd barely exchanged 10 sentences, made eye contact, shaken hands. Ethan wasn't vain enough to think he was the type to inspire love at first sight. "Miss Sinclair, are you in a rush to get married?" Zara wasn't actually in a hurry. For her, marriage was optional, a bonus rather than a necessity. She was perfectly fine on her own, but she answered Ethan, "Yes, I am. I'm nearly 30, and I've never even dated anyone. Grandma Wood has been on my case about it forever. She turned 80 this year, and she worries that when she passes, I'll be left all alone, with no one to look after me if I get sick or need help. I left my parents when I was 3, and my grandparents raised me. My grandfather's biggest worry before he died was me. He said his greatest regret was not living to see me settle down and establish myself. Well, I've established myself now. Settling down is the only part left. I want my grandmother to see what he couldn't. She's very fond of you. She'd be relieved if we were together." But didn't that just mean settling? Hearing Zara's explanation, Ethan could somewhat understand her position. "Ethan, think it over," Zara continued, her tone direct as always. "Marry me, and I promise I'll treat you well. I won't make you do anything you don't want to. I'll transfer $1 million to you monthly, voluntarily, and give you an unlimited black card. If you need connections or resources, I can help with introductions. If you're really concerned, we can draft a prenup. Feel free to ask for whatever you want. I'll accommodate you. Marriage isn't a cage to me. I'll give you your freedom. All I ask in return is respect and that you help maintain appearances. At least enough so Grandma Wood thinks I'm happy. When the time comes, if you want a divorce, I won't stand in your way." So Ethan's initial impression hadn't been wrong. Zara was indeed here to negotiate a deal. He mulled over her offer. Honestly, it was incredibly tempting. She was far more generous than Serena, tossing around millions like it was nothing. Ethan felt a knot in his throat. This was wildly different from what he'd anticipated. It was difficult to refuse, but also difficult to accept. Years of experience had taught him that alluring offers often hid traps. "Miss Sinclair," Ethan still found it hard to address her differently. "If you just marry some random guy, what will your family think? Surely no parents would want their exceptional daughter marrying such an ordinary man so carelessly." Zara replied breezily, "I don't care about them. What they think is irrelevant to me." "So you don't have a good relationship with your family?" "It's passable. We don't live together," Zara said. "You don't have to worry about them giving you any trouble." Hearing that, Ethan felt a sense of relief. He actually started to seriously consider whether he should marry her. Marriage isn't something to take lightly. You have to think it through carefully. Agreeing rashly can cause problems, and it's irresponsible towards your own life. Then again, Zara Sinclair was incredibly skilled at reading people. Every step she took was calculated and gradual. Any hesitation, and you'd find yourself caught in a powerful temptation. Zara's eyes behind her glasses seemed to see right through him. Ethan Young's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly looked away. Luckily, the waiter arrived with their food just then. "Let's eat first." Zara backed off slightly, giving Ethan some breathing room. They didn't talk much during the meal, mostly just commenting on the food. The dishes Ethan had ordered were all to Zara's liking. As she sipped her clam chowder, she glanced up at Ethan across the table. For Zara, an arranged marriage was just a formality, a way to appease Grandma Wood. That had been her mindset before coming. But meeting Ethan had slightly changed things. Zara had never lacked admirers. Even abroad, men lined up wanting to date her. She'd met all sorts of men, but Ethan felt different, special. He was 3 years younger than her, only 25, yet he carried himself with a maturity beyond his years. He was strikingly handsome, exactly her type. Just looking at his face made her heart race. Beyond his good looks, the effortless confidence and charisma he exuded in every gesture drew her attention. Her glasses fogged up from the rising steam, so Zara simply took them off. Ethan happened to look up and met Zara's eyes. Without the glasses blocking his view, he could clearly see their shape, her pupils. Her upturned, almond-shaped eyes held a captivating allure. Her irises were a rare, bright black. Zara spoke. I think our tastes are quite compatible. Wouldn't you call that a kind of fate? Shared tastes could prevent some conflicts when getting along. They had just finished eating and hadn't exchanged more than a few words when Zara's phone rang. She first apologized to Ethan before answering. She didn't step away to take the call, indicating it wasn't important. The room was quiet, so even without speakerphone, the voice on the other end was faintly audible. As soon as Zara answered, a man's voice came through. Zara, have you eaten? It's my birthday today. Lots of people are here. Uncle and Auntie are here too. We're just missing you. The caller paused, then asked tentatively, do you have time to come to my birthday party? Zara's expression remained calm. I don't have time. She remembered telling him clearly a couple of days ago that she couldn't make it today. Why was he calling again? The caller persisted. Not even later today? What about tonight? Or tomorrow? No. Zara, we're about to cut the cake here. Can you just wish me a happy birthday? Zara was starting to feel impatient, but her face remained impassive. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Wait, Zara, it's okay if you don't. Afraid of upsetting her, Lucas Taylor quickly changed the subject. Do you want some 5-tier cake? It's from that brand you love. I had them make a separate one just for you. I can send it over right now. No, thank you. As soon as the words were out, Zara decisively ended the call. The entire exchange took less than 3 minutes. The contrast made it clear. Zara's attitude towards Ethan was actually quite considerate. Ethan hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but it was so quiet that the voice from the phone inevitably reached his ears. If you have something to attend to, we can end this early. I'm fine. Zara put down her phone. We've had lunch. Any plans for the afternoon? Want to see a movie? The new Oppenheimer film has been getting good reviews. Zara nodded. While eating dessert, something occurred to Zara. A smile played on her lips as she said, I hear you're very good at making desserts. My grandmother raves about your cakes and cookies, says your skills rival the chefs at Jean Georges. That's an exaggeration. I only know how to make simple home-style things. Zara nonchalantly swirled the drink in front of her. But I really want to try them. What should I do? Then I'll make some and bring them to you next time. It's a deal, then. I want to try those New York cheesecake cookies you often make for my grandmother. Okay. Just like that, in a few words, their second meeting was arranged. Zara beamed. Shall we book the AMC tickets then? I'll do it. Ethan took out his phone, pulling up the movie he'd had saved for a while. Just as he was about to show Zara, an unknown number called. You should get that. Okay. Worried it might be Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center, Ethan answered the call, holding the phone to his ear. Hello. It's me, a woman's voice. Ethan was confused for a moment, then asked quietly, Who is this? Did you dial the wrong number? Ethan Young, you don't even recognize my voice anymore? The voice was instantly recognizable as irritable, sharp, and piercing, likely loud enough for Zara across the table to hear. This time, Ethan finally placed it. It was Serena Sinclair. He shot a quick glance at Zara, then asked, What is it? Ethan Young, you unblock my number right now. And my iMessage. Serena's voice came through the phone, followed by a heavy sigh. These past couple of days should have taught you a lesson. You can't do anything without me. Since I'm in a good mood today, apologize, admit you were wrong, and I'll forgive you. I'll let you come back to me. I've even arranged a place for you. There's a villa in Pineview Estates. It'll suit you perfectly. Ethan furrowed his brow, glanced at the sky outside, and said uncertainly, It's not even nighttime yet. What are you dreaming about? What? Ethan was speechless. He thought Serena must have taken the wrong medicine recently and fried her brain. She couldn't even understand plain language anymore. Just last week, she was the one who told him to leave, making it crystal clear that the stand-in contract was over, and they were strangers from then on. Now she was demanding he come back, claiming his punishment was over. Leaving her was a lesson? It was clearly a reward, wasn't it? They had already gone their separate ways. He had no obligation and wasn't about to waste time arguing with Serena. He had already said everything that needed to be said. He wasn't some masochist trading a golden opportunity for a prison sentence. Ethan lowered the phone and hung up, the entire sequence smooth and decisive. Finally, he made sure to block this number too. In all these years, this was the first time Ethan had ever unilaterally hung up on Serena. During his time as her stand-in, Ethan used to keep his phone on 24/7 because Serena demanded he be available at her beck and call. Not only that, she had even given him a custom Apple Watch to track his location. He had no freedom, like a dog fitted with a tracking collar, completely stripped of dignity. 3 hours earlier, Serena Sinclair was at Lucas Taylor's birthday party. She stayed by Lucas's side, mingling with Wall Street elites, making introductions for him, and sharing her network. Lucas hadn't been back in the country for 5 years, so he'd forgotten many faces. Thankfully, Serena discreetly prompted him, saving him from embarrassment. By the end of the event, he felt exhausted. He couldn't help but wish Zara Sinclair were there instead. Just seeing her would have made him feel completely relaxed. It's been 5 years. Taylor Holdings' youngest son looks like a grown man now, and quite handsome too. Yes, we watch him grow up. He used to seem so unreliable, but who knew going abroad would change him so much? He's mature and steady now. And look at Serena beside him. A perfect match, handsome and beautiful. They grew up together, practically engaged since birth. Their families are well matched. They know each other inside and out. They're truly suited for each other. Maybe we'll be toasting them with champagne towers soon. Lucas must have come back for the wedding with Serena, right? They're not getting any younger. Past 25, heading towards 30. It's about time they got married. These comments constantly buzzed around Lucas, making him deeply uncomfortable. Serena was wonderful, but compared to Zara, she was nothing. Not even close. Lucas, looks like things are getting serious between you and Serena. Both families throwing this birthday party for you right after you returned. The Sinclairs must already consider you their son-in-law. It's still early days, Uncle Jiang. Uncle Jiang clapped him on the shoulder, his eyes full of approval for the younger man. He seemed about to say more, but Lucas turned and hurried away. Uncle Jiang, I'm going to find my sister. Why don't you find a seat? Hey, this kid running off so fast. Looks like those 5 years did his health good. Lucas wasn't an only child. He had an older sister, Jessica Taylor, and a younger sister, Alice Taylor. Taylor Holdings didn't favor sons over daughters. Ability determined responsibility. Currently, Jessica was managing the company. Now that Lucas was back, he needed to be assigned a position to see what he was capable of. This birthday party was ostensibly for Lucas, but it was also a test from his family. So far, he hadn't made any mistakes. He was doing acceptably well. Lucas turned and walked away, not actually going to find his sister. He was in a terrible mood. Everyone here today kept bringing up either him or Serena, tying them together inextricably. He truly feared he might end up being forced to marry Serena. If Zara hadn't come into his life, perhaps Serena would have been a good choice. They grew up together, and when he was sickly as a child, Serena had helped him a lot. But feelings couldn't be manufactured just because someone had helped you. He simply didn't have romantic feelings for Serena. Given the relationship between their families, he couldn't easily refuse her directly. If only Zara liked him, then he wouldn't have to force himself into this just to maintain family ties. They were both Sinclair daughters, so why couldn't he choose the one who truly suited his heart? Lucas sat in a lounge for a while, trying to figure out what to do, until his older sister, Jessica, called. Lucas, where did you go? It's time for you to come out and cut the cake. I'm in the lounge. Give me a moment. I'll be right there. The lounge. Jessica asked with concern. Are you feeling unwell? You sound a bit down. No. Okay, good. Hurry up then. I'm hanging up now. After hanging up, Lucas didn't leave immediately. Instead, he scrolled through his phone, looking at his chat history with Zara. His longing to see her reached its peak. Jessica was waiting, so Lucas couldn't delay any longer and hurried downstairs. A 5-tier cake, taller than a person, was rolled out. It had taken 3 days and 2 nights to create, cost $100,000, and was exquisitely crafted. When Lucas appeared, the crowd gathered around him, and Serena was gently pushed to stand by his side. Happy birthday to you, Lucas. Happy 26th birthday. The birthday song echoed through the resplendent hall of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel as Lucas was surrounded by friends and family celebrating his birthday. Lucas wore a white Tom Ford suit with a bow tie, looking elegant, distinguished, and every bit the Prince Charming girls dream of. Many young heiresses in the room stole glances at him, envying Serena for landing such a fine man. Of course, Serena was no less stunning, dressed in the latest fall collection Oscar de la Renta silver gown. The dress perfectly accentuated her figure, showcasing her curves. Standing next to Lucas, they made a strikingly handsome couple. Lucas, Serena said softly, personally lighting the candles. Make a wish and blow them out. Lucas glanced around at the expectant faces, then clasped his hands together, closed his eyes, and fervently made his wish. I wish Zara would fall in love with me and marry me. He only made that one wish. He worried if he asked for too much, fate, or whatever powers that be, might think him greedy and not grant it. At that moment, he missed Zara more than ever. Back when he was in Y Country, whenever he couldn't see Zara, he would secretly seek her out, watching her from hidden corners where she wouldn't notice him. Or he'd gaze at her photo, lost in thought. Come to think of it, he hadn't seen Zara in almost 2 weeks. Since returning, he had visited the Sinclair family home and wandered around Maplewood, discreetly asking around. But he hadn't found any trace of Zara. Why was it so difficult just to see her? Their families were so close, their relationship so good, and they both lived in Maplewood. Lucas felt a wave of disappointment, so strong it showed on his face. Why the long face while making a wish? His mother asked, ruffling his hair gently. Lucas looked up. Because it's a big wish and not easy to achieve. His mother said fondly, well, tell me what it is. Let's hear what wish is so hard to achieve. Her son had finally returned. If he truly had a wish, she, as his mother, would do her best to help him achieve it, provided it wasn't too outrageous. Lucas hesitated, pressing his lips together, ultimately keeping his true wish to himself. He shook his head. This is a wish only I can fulfill. When the time is right, I'll tell you and Dad. Playing mysterious now, are we? Laughter rippled through the surrounding guests. Serena handed him the cake knife. Birthday boy, time to cut the cake. Cutting such a huge cake for so many people wasn't easy. Luckily, there were plenty of knives, so Lucas handed some out for others to help. Don't cut the top tier. Save it for me. He wanted to save it for Zara. Naturally, no one objected to the birthday boy's request. Even without the top layer, there was more than enough cake to go around. After the cake was cut, Lucas took his slice and found a place to sit. He tasted the frosting. The rich, creamy flavor spread through his mouth without being overly sweet. Through years of careful observation, he knew Zara loved macarons. Thinking of her, he sent Zara the photo he'd taken of the cake earlier. When she didn't reply, he put down his plate and found a quiet corner to call her. The call connected, and Zara picked up. Just the thought of hearing Zara's voice made Lucas's mouth go dry. He began, Zara, have you eaten? It's my birthday today. Lots of people are here. Your parents came too. You're the only one missing. Do you have time to come to my party? He bit his lower lip after asking. No time. How could you not have time? Her entire family, the Sinclairs, are here. Is she the only one who's busy? Besides, he'd asked Mr. Sinclair, who confirmed Taylor Holdings wasn't busy at year-end. So, Zara Sinclair wasn't unavailable. She simply didn't want to come. She was so indifferent, she couldn't even be bothered to make up an excuse. It was downright callous. Lucas Taylor wasn't ready to give up. She said she didn't have time? Fine. He'd keep asking until she gave him one. He refused to believe she could be busy forever. He believed persistence would eventually wear her down. How could he fail if he just kept trying? Is it the entire day? What about tonight? Or tomorrow would work too. He pressed on, relentless, until finally he could hear the impatience in Zara's voice. All he wanted was to hear her voice more, to hear her say a simple happy birthday to him on his birthday. But Zara wouldn't even grant him that simple request. She even threatened to hang up. The entire call lasted less than 3 minutes. He did almost all the talking. Zara had barely uttered a handful of words in total. Before he could even process it, the call ended abruptly. Staring at the dark screen of his iPhone, Lucas lowered his gaze, biting his lip and clenching his jaw. Their families were so close, and he'd known Zara for so long. Why couldn't he get through to her? Why couldn't he reach her heart? Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair liked him, and Serena had practically followed him around like a shadow since they were kids. Only Zara treated him coldly, ignoring him no matter how hard he tried. Could it be that Zara actually hated him? But what had he ever done wrong? For her, he'd pushed himself to get better, worked out, even gone abroad all by himself. Did she really not see any of it? Lucas was furious and exasperated. The sweet, 5-tier cake on the table suddenly seemed cloying and disgusting, impossible to swallow. In his anger, he threw the entire cake into the trash can beside him. Serena happened to walk over just in time to witness this. Lucas, why did you throw the cake away? Lucas froze, caught showing his bad side. He couldn't help feeling sheepish, his eyes darting away. I'm not in a great mood. Didn't feel like eating it. But you seemed fine just a moment ago. Serena was observant. She had already noticed something was off with his mood when he was cutting the cake. Maybe I'm just tired lately, Plus, I'm still adjusting from the jet lag. I even had insomnia last night. Lucas fumbled for excuses, trying to brush her off. Serena nodded. That makes sense. You only got back a few days ago, and then you had to deal with this huge charity gala. It's normal not to feel adjusted yet. She stepped forward, wanting to comfort him. But Lucas suddenly stood up, deftly dodging her approach. Serena, my stomach's bothering me a bit. I'm going to the lounge to take some Prilosec. Can you handle things out here for me for a little while? Serena looked concerned. Is it bad? Should we go to Mount Sinai Hospital? No need, it's an old problem. The medicine will help. Lucas had never been in robust health. He could manage it carefully at home, but going abroad with its different diet had wrecked his stomach. Because of this, Serena didn't doubt his excuse about stomach trouble. After watching him get into the elevator, Serena sat down in the chair Lucas had just vacated. She took out her iPhone, initially just intending to check it, but somehow found herself scrolling to Ethan Young's number. She dialed it, but just like the past few days, the call didn't go through. She was still on his block list. Shouldn't Ethan be desperate by now, cornered and ready to come crawling back to her? After all, Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center had already notified him about moving rooms. She had stopped paying the exorbitant medical bills, and she made sure, through subtle hints, that his agency, Starlight Talent Agency, wouldn't make things easy for him. Everything felt just like it had 5 years ago. So why the radio silence? Why hadn't she heard a peep from him? The quiet, unnerved Serena, making her feel flustered, as if something was slipping from her grasp, escaping her control. Just then, a server walked past. Serena called out, "You, come here a moment." The server paused, startled, then quickly approached her. "Let me borrow your iPhone for a second. I need to make a call." The server didn't hesitate, handing over their iPhone. Serena took it and dialed Ethan's number. The call connected and was answered within seconds. "Hello." She heard Ethan's voice. He had a great voice. His agency had once suggested he record music, but Serena had shut the idea down. She knew that if Ethan was ever given a real chance, he would blow up, entering the public spotlight, something Serena absolutely did not want. The fact that Ethan didn't immediately recognize her voice made her face harden. She opened her mouth, her tone imperious. "Ethan Young, you will take my number off your block list right now. And my FaceTime. These past couple of days should have been enough to teach you a lesson. Without me, you're absolutely nothing. Since I happen to be in a good mood today, apologize, admit you were wrong, and I'll forgive you. I'll let you come back to me. I've even arranged a place for you. There's a villa in Pineview Estates that would suit you perfectly." See how generous she was? She'd practically laid out a ladder for him. Ethan had better be smart enough to climb down. It's not even nighttime yet. What are you dreaming about? What? And with that, Ethan hung up. He actually hung up on her. That had never happened before. Serena gripped the iPhone tightly, growing angrier the more she thought about it. She tried to call back, only to hear the familiar recording. "Sorry, the number you dialed is busy now." He'd blocked this number too. Did Ethan really despise her that much? Just as she thought, let a dog off its leash, and it runs wild. Ethan was the dog she had spent 5 years training. Now the dog had run off, meaning her 5 years of time and energy had all been for nothing. How could she not feel discouraged, enraged? Her heart ached as if being gnawed by a million ants. Seething with rage, Serena completely forgot her surroundings and threw the iPhone down, smashing it. The server beside her gasped in horror, seeing the cracked screen. "My iPhone 15 Pro. I just bought it." Serena always meticulously maintained her public image. She wasn't naturally good-tempered. Her usual gentle and generous demeanor was just an act. Venting her anger so recklessly like this was truly rare. Fortunately, no one nearby seemed to be paying attention. Serena kept her head down, her expression twisted in a furious glare. After a long moment, she slowly regained control, managing to maintain a shred of composure. The server, hardly daring to breathe, sorrowfully picked up the broken phone. Serena glanced at her coldly. "Apple Pay. I'll send you the money for the phone." The server nervously brought up their payment code. Serena scanned it with her own phone and sent 20,000. "Is that enough?" Seeing the amount, enough to buy 4 iPhones, the server quickly nodded. "Enough, enough, enough." After the server left, Serena called Ethan's agent, David Johnson. "Why haven't I heard anything about Ethan lately?" David Johnson hesitated before replying. "Miss Sinclair, Ethan has terminated his contract with us at Starlight Talent Agency." "Miss Sinclair, Ethan terminated his contract with Starlight Talent Agency." David's voice was hoarse, sounding utterly defeated. "Terminated?" Serena's eyes widened, bloodshot. "Who gave you permission to let him go? If I remember correctly, you signed him for 8 years. It's only been 6. There are 2 years left. Doesn't he have to pay a penalty for breaking the contract early? Her once pretty face twisted with fury at his words. The calm she had struggled to regain vanished, replaced by an even greater fury. She breathed rapidly, her chest heaving. David didn't dare admit Ethan had used the agency's dirty secrets as leverage. Instead, he shifted the blame to Serena. Isn't Ethan your guy? I assumed this was what you wanted, so I didn't really try to stop him. Besides, Ethan's been a nobody at the agency for years. Having him or not doesn't make much difference. I made myself perfectly clear on the phone the other day. Are you incapable of understanding plain English? Why didn't you call me before letting him walk? David mumbled evasively, unable to give a straight answer. The termination papers were already signed. It was too late to go back now. David was furious with Ethan too. Just thinking about what happened that day made him feel suffocated. Ever since Ethan left, his boss, Mr. Lee, had been giving him grief, and now Serena was blaming him too. Was he some kind of punching bag for everyone to kick around? David didn't dare lash out at Serena, so he silently cursed Ethan. Then, an idea struck him. Miss Sinclair, Ethan's your man, isn't he? If the gentle approach doesn't work, play hardball. He has no money, no connections, and a sick sister weighing him down. It would be easy for you to crush him. Although David didn't know the specifics of what had happened between Ethan and Serena, he could piece together the general situation from their conversation. He figured their stand-in arrangement must have ended. Ethan wanted out. Serena couldn't let him go, and now she wanted David to help pressure Ethan into coming back. David added venomously, "If you ask me, Ethan is being completely ungrateful. He's forgotten who's been supporting him these past 5 years. If it weren't for you, his sister Emily would probably be dead by now. You should teach that ungrateful brat a lesson. Make it impossible for him to survive in Maplewood. Once he can't pay her medical bills, he'll come crawling back to you, just like 5 years ago. Serena basically kept him for 5 years. All he knows is acting, and mostly in terrible movies. He'll probably try to stick with acting. One word from Serena, and he won't be able to find any work in Hollywood. He'll have no choice but to come back, whether he wants to or not. However smug Ethan felt leaving the agency, that's how miserable he'll be later." Serena didn't respond. She certainly had the power and means to force Ethan back in line, but taking action would cause a scandal. Everyone around her would find out she'd kept a stand-in for the past 5 years, especially Lucas. To Lucas, she had always cultivated an image of being bright, generous, confident, and gentle, someone with minor quirks but easily appeased, leaving only positive impressions. If that image shattered, how would he see her? This was what liking someone meant, she supposed, carefully maintaining a good image, caring deeply about his opinion, exhausting but captivating all the same. David trailed off after his long speech, noticing Serena hadn't reacted, and fell silent. He and the others had always assumed Serena was just amusing herself with Ethan, that it was a passing fancy. But they'd forgotten the old saying about trifling distractions. Playing could become addictive. Serena's mind raced. In that moment, Lucas was completely forgotten. All she could think about was the quickest, most effective way to get Ethan back. Initially, she thought cutting off Emily's medical funding and forcing them to change rooms would be enough to make Ethan see reason. She hadn't expected him to be so stubborn. The more defiant Ethan was, the more it ignited her competitive streak. Before, she'd merely treated Ethan like a pet dog. Now, she genuinely wanted to turn him into one, perhaps even kept on a leash, locked in a cage. Since Ethan has terminated his contract, there's no longer any need for our partnership to continue. Hearing Serena planned to pull her investment, David panicked. "Wait, Miss Sinclair," he yelled, but she ruthlessly hung up before he could finish. Serena had never thought much of the agency, anyway. The money she'd poured into it over the years had yielded negligible returns. It was practically a total loss. If it hadn't been a way to control Ethan, she never would have invested a dime. Shortly after hanging up, Serena saw Sophia Sullivan approaching. "Serena," Sophia said, sitting down beside her, "I've been looking all over for you. Hiding out here? Where's your Lucas?" She glanced around. His stomach was bothering him. He went to the lounge to take some medicine. Sophia leaned inconspiratorially. "So how are things with you and Lucas? He's back for good this time, right? Are the families going to start planning the wedding soon?" "It's still early," Serena replied, perhaps not even realizing herself how little her thoughts were focused on Lucas right now. Sophia didn't say anything, just studied Serena with a meaningful look. In the past, Serena would have already been making plans. Engagement, wedding, honeymoon in Bora Bora. "Has Ethan reached out to you?" At the mention of his name, Serena's breath caught. "No, he terminated his contract with the agency." Sophia looked incredulous. I can't believe it. He always seems so spineless. I never thought he'd just up and leave without a word. His sister's still being treated at Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center. He'll come crawling back to you eventually. What else can he do? He doesn't know how to deal with people. He's introverted, useless, has no skills besides taking care of you. He doesn't even have the guts to ask for forgiveness. Once he's away from you, he'll realize how hard life is. He's probably regretting it already. Within Serena's circle, Sophia was her closest friend and knew the most. She tended to speak her mind without much reservation. You're right, Serena agreed. Sophia put an arm around her shoulder, smiling. Feeling any better now? After a moment's silence, Serena admitted, not really. Ethan really pissed me off this time. You still care about him, don't you? It's like a perfect custom piece you've had for 5 years. When it suddenly disappears, it feels wrong. Serena picked up her martini and downed it in one gulp. Sophia asked, if Ethan comes back, what will you do with him? Aren't you afraid Lucas will find out? Serena hadn't thought that far ahead. Right now, she just wanted Ethan back under her control. I'll set him up somewhere out of the way. That villa in Pineview Estates, the one where we went camping and had that barbecue. Sophia thought back. It was very remote, true, not easily discovered. She'd always suspected Serena had a ruthless streak, but she hadn't realized the full extent of it. So, Lucas on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, Ethan on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and Sundays off? Think you can manage that schedule? Serena poured herself another whiskey. We'll see when I get tired of him. Sophia thought privately. Astra's 5 years, and she's still not tired of him. How much longer will it take? I'm afraid the one she'll eventually get tired of is Lucas. Asterisk,